Welcome to Saber Talk Live. Saberification systems are go.
I got nothing to light. I only got my one I'm working on. I got nothing to light. I'm short this week, man. What can I say?
You can't tell that would provide something.
Sorry, you're sabered up, though. That's all that matters. You're carrying. That's all that matters.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for joining us tonight, where we are going to talk about a bunch of lightsaber stuff.
I just got a post. It said we got to watch SpaceWIndu Lightsaber.
You're in it. You need to watch it. You're in it. So I'm actually gonna post a link here for anybody that wants to come in. The first comment here is a link. Anybody wants to join us and talk about the Mandalorian, Jedi Fallen Order, any kind of Star Wars news that's happening right now, especially Saber news. I mean, anything in general, though. There's so much happening right now. The Rise of Skywalker is going to come out. This great show, The Mandalorian, is out. And Gabe and I are playing The Fallen Order. It's an awesome lightsaber-based video game. Check out my review that I posted a couple days ago about The Fallen Order. I have it for PS4, so does Gabe, but it's like a single story. It's a single-player game, so you can't go on and play with each other anyway. But it's just a crazy story where you jump around and fight with a lightsaber, and also able to upgrade your lightsaber like in real life. That's why I think Harrison really liked it.
Looked very cool. Man.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Yeah, I get a sort of Assassin's Creed meets Tomb Raider type vibe from that Jedi Fallen Order game, right?
Do you guys know I forget his name, the actor. What's his name? The guy who played the part.
I don't know. He was like the Joker.
It was the same guy, right? He was the Joker in Gotham?
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. Because he did look familiar to me, and I thought that was him, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I forget his name now.
Yeah, I don't think I
He was cool. He was cool.
Him.
He played a good part.
Yeah.
Yeah, the game's coming along pretty nice. I like it.
Yeah, I'm not that far
Cal
along.
in the game.
Yeah.
Cal something.
I got a green lightsaber in it.
Yeah, Custis.
What are you playing with the blue lightsaber?
Come on, man. You know, all day, son. Blue. All day. That's it.
I was actually surprised that they provided both colors.
I switched in the game. I switched.
You can only start out.
I only saw blue and green.
You can only start out blue and green.
You can only start out blue and green.
But then as you progress, you get.
Now, I think if you pre-ordered or something online, you get orange also. But I didn't. I just I'm blue all day.
And it's like anytime you come upon this lightsaber workshop table, that's why it just reminds me of when we work on the lightsaber on the workshop table.
It's the same thing. You walk up to the bench and you can just put it on, start switching emitters and pommels.
We need one of those tools he's got. He's got some kind of cool tool I've seen. I don't know what it does because they never show it on camera working.
Oh, when he's working on BD1.
Yeah, he's always working on something. He's got some kind of
droid, some upgrades.
Yeah.
Cool looking tool.
It's the same tool. He was, I think, modifying his saber also in one scene, one part of the game. It's pretty cool, though. I love it.
We got awesome. Tim McAndrew in the chat. He's saying, "Hey guys, my brother wants to build a lightsaber." Did you meet his brother?
I think maybe at his party when we were there.
Yeah, I don't know if I met his brother.
Hi Tim.
What's up, Tim?
What's up, dude?
Thanks for joining us, Tim. Martin Morales says, "What's up, guys? What's going on, Martin?"
What up, Martin?
Is that who makes our song for us?
Yeah.
That's
our. Yep.
Big Mark.
Thank you so much, Martin.
Yep.
Sorry about last time. I didn't get a chance to respond to you last time.
That's our John Williams behind the scenes.
That is incredible. Yeah. Gabe tells us that you're gonna create some kind of new song for us, so thank you for that. That's gonna be awesome. We're really happy with it.
Can't wait to hear it, man.
Amazing freaking music producer. He's working on some top secret stuff. He's gonna be doing for us some more, theme music and a couple other things. So I can't wait for that. We're excited for that.
Yeah, really excited.
Yeah,
awesome.
I love Martin's creation so far. I split it up in a couple different versions. Like we just play a part of it, and then sometimes we'll play another part of it. So that's really cool to get.
Yeah, he's going to be giving us plenty to work with. pretty to work with. Right? So we'll be able to use it for different types of ideas and video clips, not just our talk show, but other things we can do with it. So it's going to be awesome. I'm excited. Plus, Martin's the same person that's going to be working with. We already talked about this. Our powder coating for our saber parts and stuff. Because he's amazing. He's been doing that for many years.
That's great. Yeah, I got a lot of ideas for that too. That's awesome.
Yes, sir.
Harris, I want you to read that post from Irv today. There was a post from Irv on Facebook, and you read it quite nicely before, so I want to have him read it again.
Keep talking. Let me find it. It's going to take me a minute to find
something on Facebook just about what Irv from Plector Labs is working on, and it sounded pretty cool. It's like upgrades for the Crystal Focus 10. That's what Gabe is using in his lightsaber, his Genesis Custom Sabers Ascend. This is the one he's wanted for years and years and years, and just this year he got it a couple weeks back.
Yeah.
And it's really, really awesome lightsaber. Just upgraded the speaker to a WOW. Is it a WOW speaker? TCS 4-watt speaker. Gabe is noticing that it's a little bit less loud than the 2-watt, but it should give us like longer life. Speaker.
It could be the resonance. It could be different factors always go into play when it comes to sound and sabers. If you're into sabers, you should already know that it all depends on the shapes, the material used, the elements, resonance. All this stuff goes into play when you're talking about acoustics and sound. So I have the 4-watt WOW, and it's not as loud as the 2-watt. Go figure. But at the same time, the other one was rattling anyway. I think it was blown, and I needed a new one, so I figured I'd just go with the 4-watt. So I'm happy with it now.
Great. You got that post up, Harris?
Yeah. So what this is about, this is the constant dedication of the man, the myth, the legend. Irv Plector. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. So Irv wrote today on the forums, just to let you know the constant professional that this guy is. Weekly update from Plector Labs. Love it. Quite some work done this week. LS2 active for a while now, with proper split of trident blade and pixel accent, with simple config. Blade FX layout pretty much finished. Reworked all of the maths to save even more CPU. And listed all the code and looks for the different localized effects. So far, I've implemented simple flare and bass flare for power on FX. And I'll keep going with the power off styles and some code for additional force and force clash sound fonts / FX, but it needs to be compatible with legacy font naming. Nothing difficult, just keeping things coming. How about that, Irv? You are the man. Doesn't just put the board out and say, have at it, guys. Constantly is updating the files that you can go to plectorlabs.com and grab the newest version. He's putting out more software than Apple is, basically, Apple gives you an update like every 6 months, or when you get a new phone, there's always an update for it, Irv's constantly updating my favorite card in the world, CFX. I love it. Good job, Irv.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, Gabe has got the Neopixel side of the Crystal Focus 10 on his lightsaber. You can wire it either way with the RGB. You're working on the saber with the RGB side of it, just an in-hill LED.
Yep.
If anyone wants to hear more about Irv, check out my interview with Irv on FX-Sabers Live. It's on this channel.
3 hours, 4
maybe
hours.
it was like 3 or 4 hours.
3 or 4. I watched the whole thing.
I think it was more than that.
I watched the whole.
I think it was like 5 or something.
Watched the whole darn thing. Couldn't get enough of it.
And we'll talk to him again. He's gonna like call into a saber talk sometime. So
yeah, I love it. Thank you, Irv.
We'll talk to Irv. Tim McAndrew says, yeah, it's him. Also, Anthony, anything about Profi's looking all over. There's nobody closer. Yeah, Profi, I'm doing a few Profis right now. I'm doing a few different ways to wire the Profi. I'm working on one that is string blade I'm working on one that is a Neopixel. I don't think I'm doing any in-hill LED profies, but those two types. Rich Sangillo says, "What's up, fellas? What's going on, Rich?"
What up, Rich?
Martin
Thanks for
says,
watching.
more to come. You're welcome. Thanks, Martin. That's really, really awesome.
Thank you, bro.
So enjoy those songs. That's so nice that you think of us for that. Oh, we have Chinese Bill is coming in. What's going on, Bill?
Billy! Yeah, buddy. How you doing?
Sabers on, bro.
Saber salute to Bill.
Saber salute to Bill.
Got the shirt on and
Let me see if okay, here we go. This is Bill, everyone. I met Bill at the Saber Legion meetup in Edison, New Jersey. I think Harris knew Bill already, but that was the first time I met Bill. There's a Saber Talk. I think it's like Saber Talk. Maybe it's a special edition with the TSL. Go check that out, and I'm sure Bill's going to tell us something about the TSL while he's on tonight. But we wanted to talk to Bill about the Mandalorian because we all saw the Mandalorian. Harris saw it tonight. Bill, did you watch the Mandalorian once?
I think I've watched all 3 episodes like 3 times, so I had to watch them. So yeah, I think I watched each episode 3 times.
Nice. I think I did the same thing. I think I did. Maybe I saw the first episode like 4 times because
Last weekend, you and I watched it 3 or 4
2
times.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just saw episode 3 tonight. Blew my mind. I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome.
I was having the best time in episode 3 too. Like I thought that was fantastic. Episode 3 just came out on Friday, and I guess every Friday another one's going to be released up until episode 8, when that's the end of that for the season of it. Bill, what have you been thinking about the Mandalorian?
Dude, I think this is what the true Star Wars fans have needed to kind of, I guess, clear some of the air with what's been going on with all the rumors about The Last Jedi and Kathleen Kennedy and, all the reshoots they're doing for episode 9. There seems to be a big cluster, kind of surrounding that because they've had to do a bunch of reshoots. They brought in Lucas to help with the ending because right now it's just like they're trying to, I guess, please everybody at the very end. I mean, because there's so much to wrap up because Ryan Johnson didn't really, do much of a job in order to, I guess, elaborate on some of the mystery boxes that J.J. Abrams set up. And then, a lot of fans were disappointed because a lot of questions were answered. There was more stuff that wasn't, handled, I think, properly, like the Knights of Ren and who was Snoke. And, there's a lot more to that. But I guess for the Mandalorian, it brings me back to the original trilogies because it just brings a lot of, I guess, the nostalgia, the sentimentality, the landscape, the feel. I mean, it just felt like, the trilogy, the original trilogy, because it's happened 5 years after, Return of the Jedi. So you're seeing this whole big, cluster right now with, the aftermath of the Galactic Empire disbanding. All these cells are just kind of like, scattering. The Outer Rim is just in shambles because, now there's martial law and, a lot of the Jedi are gone, and the ones that, only hear the myth or the lore of Luke Skywalker and who the Jedi were are just basically whispers and rumors in the whole, Outer Rim. So it's kind of like, it's I think the Mandalorian kind of thinks something's going on here, but can't put his finger quite on it because he's not too versed, I guess, on Force-sensitive beings. So there's like 2 or 3 theories I think that are going around right now. That one that I don't know if you saw in the last episode of The Mandalorian, the one doctor's actually got a Kaminoan insignia on himself, which were the cloners from, Attack of the Clones. So I think maybe they were trying to maybe think about cloning this child.
It seemed like they got what they needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were like ready to discard him.
Yeah, I mean, so I think there's could be a couple things going on here. I mean, the whole mystery about it, I don't know if you guys know too, that Yoda and Yaddle were the only two of their species ever talked about in the whole universe.
Yep.
And, Lucas wanted that part of that shrouded in mystery. So there's no mention of where they come from. There's no planet, and there's no race that they're tied to. All we know is that they're highly force-sensitive beings, and they can live to be like 900 to 1,000 years old, because we know that, Yoda died, about 900 years old. So he became one with the Force about 900. So who knows how old Yaddle was. Now, the other theory was that Yoda and Yaddle were kind of getting it on, and this is the baby, since the baby is 50 years old. So if you really think about it, so if this is after Empire.
No, I think 50 years before this would have been right about the time of the Phantom Menace, or like 5 years pre to the Phantom Menace, right?
Right. So that would have been
them too, like just trying to perpetuate the species,
right?
If nothing else, right?
Exactly. So,
and like,
but
this baby creature could be alive in Rise of Skywalker.
It could be. I mean, that's the whole thing, because of where it all is going to tie in. If this child can live to be, 800, 900, 1,000 years old.
If I see that in Star Wars, the Skywalker movie, I'm going to need to bring an extra pair of pants, because I'm gonna crap my pants if I see that kid in the
Well, right now it totally it broke the internet once the first episode of Mandalorian came on, and you saw the Baby Yoda, or whatever you want to call him. Everybody's been calling him Baby Yoda. The other thing was they were talking about he could have been a clone of Yoda. So if they had gotten some DNA from him,
clone nowadays.
But I mean, that's just because of the time period.
I heard one of the guys was wearing the clone insignia in the episode last week. Not that it was the doctor.
That's what Bill said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doctor that was like present there. That I guess in this episode, the Mandalorian lets him live.
Yeah.
He's the one that's kind of affiliated with some kind of cloning, and I think he got what he needed, because the older guy said that it was finished, like they had what they needed.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Just got some,
I missed that. But I only saw
it was like when he was looking through the scope of his rifle.
The two were talking. It was like the image of. Yeah.
That's what they were kind of, I guess, saying.
Okay.
Like,
So
we got what we needed. Get rid of them. It's time to finish this, or something.
They don't even need them.
Yeah, the doctor was like, you know what, I was saving them. So basically he was trying to preserve the child.
If it wasn't for me, they would have killed him, or they would have.
Right. So
like that.
I think he had a little bit more compassion, being a scientist, because I mean, the other thing they were talking about possibly is that it was part of Palpatine that wanted to clone this child and possibly see how sensitive or force sensitive this being is, because the midichlorian count, are off the charts. Because if you notice, Yoda's been, one of the most powerful Jedi or Force users, in the known universe, and to be alone, alive that long.
I got like two theories of like where this, like what could happen with this. One of them is that Palpatine maybe got, there's a number of ways I think he could have got the genetic material from Yoda, because they were interacting a bunch of times in the same room. So there's probably a number of ways he could have done it. But at least what we've seen on screen, remember in episode 3 when Yoda couldn't quite hold on to the Senate platform, and he fingernail material?
Yeah. Fingernails.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm thinking maybe that's where he could easily scrape that off, right? And the second thing I thought of is...
The hair could have fallen out of his head on the floor.
Yeah, totally. Like, but what if, instead of like, we all think that they're going to clone this baby Yoda or whatever, they're going to clone Yoda's kid, or if this is Yoda and Yaddle's kid, they're going to clone it, or they wanted this material to clone it. But what if they want, like, how it's been said in other movies, in the Phantom Menace, whatever, like, over 20,000 midichlorians.
Right.
That's more than Master Yoda has, or some shit like that. So what if they want to make like almost like a force potion? Maybe it gives you the force. Like
Like
they,
a super serum,
want
you know, like Captain
to
America.
harvest
Yeah.
midichlorians
Okay.
to make something to. So let's
So
just say
force
Rise of
replicator.
Skywalker.
So it's basically would be like a super serum, you know, like in Captain America.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
What'd you say,
saying?
Bill?
It's almost like a super serum, like Captain America. You know, they injected him and they made him into
The time limit,
this
maybe
uber
you gotta
being.
inject, and you only have 10 minutes of the force or 20 minutes of the force. Or maybe you inject yourself with like 1,000,000 midichlorians, 20,000 of them stick.
I have a question.
Right.
If you could, would you?
Of course, dude.
Would you?
Heck yeah.
I should
Okay,
know
well-
already. Why do I have to inject it?
Why didn't I invent it yet?
Well, you know what? I mean, this almost could segue into the new movie because, you know, you think about it. There's the rumors are going around that, you know, Dark Ray could be a clone because they're saying that. Remember when she was in, you know, in the abyss when she was down and she looked in the mirror and they were talking about like looking for her parents.
Yeah,
And all she saw was the infinite images of herself.
Yeah.
But they were echoes. It wasn't infinitum. It was an echo. And usually with clones, you know, she could be one of many clones that Palpatine could have created because
that I've heard before too. That Rey's actually a clone that Palpatine had placed on different planets and different locations throughout the galaxy and all that other stuff. And so it was time for him to utilize the clone somehow, whatever. But I'm curious to see how this plays out in the Rise of Skywalker. If they need to. We were saying this in previous Saber talk shows of how they need to answer so many questions just with one last movie. You know?
Right. Well,
I personally think it's going to go to shit, but I'm just waiting to see how.
Right. Well, here's the thing: they're trying to do too much.
Yeah.
It's going to end up being, you know, hit or miss. Where it's like, you know, the big rumor is people are like, oh, you know, Kathleen Kennedy, why is she still president? And her contract's till the 21st, and they want to keep her on because it's either going to be two things. Either she's going to be the savior of the trilogy because if episode 9 is all that and then some, or it's just going to be a total failure like Solo, and then she's going to be out. And they're already talking about bringing Favreau in or bringing in Filoni.
I hope they paint John Favreau on our parking spot.
Yeah, right? Well, you know, here's the thing. I mean, he's a fanboy. You know, and the thing is with Kathleen Kennedy, most of her credits have been producing. She's been with high power people like Spielberg and like Lucas, and pretty much has been, in all my opinion, I really think she was just like their assistant, you know, like a gopher, kind of like, you know, getting her laundry and kind of hanging out. I mean, she had one credit where she was a dancer in Temple of Doom, you know, and I mean, just to be around somebody for 30 years doesn't mean that, you know, you really know and love Star Wars. You know, Kevin Smith is a bigger fanboy. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, but the whole difference between that, you know, being a creative consultant and a producer is apples and oranges. The producer sits around, crunches numbers. They're doing, you know, getting, you know, assets. They're getting, you know, people, you know, to do certain roles. You know, Filoni and Favreau are more creative people. They're coming up with stories. They're coming up with ideas. They're coming up, you know, with the directing part of it. So that's the problem with, like, you know, when you start delving into that kind of realm where president versus, you know, supervising director of shows, you know, it's like, do you really want to put somebody who doesn't know the business side of it into that kind of position? Or do you want a fanboy who loves Star Wars, but, you know, doesn't know how to do that? So not to digress from where we're talking about, but that's just like, they're saying that maybe this whole Mandalorian could tie into, you know, the next movie. So that's kind of.
I think the First Order is going to like start becoming like hinted at as we get toward episode 8 of The Mandalorian. Like, we're going to start, like, you know, these people being like ex-Imperials, like, isn't a coincidence. Don't you think, like, this is something that's going toward the First Order, I guess. Like, we're kind of seeing the very beginnings of the First Order. I don't know how much we're gonna like get information, but it does seem like these guys making this show are really giving us a bunch of tidbits. Like when you hear the people's names being spoken, like in the third episode, someone mentioned something that ties him to Clan Vizsla from the Clone Wars Mandalorians. So they really are trying to really show us that, like, look, we get it. Like, we get it for at least the Mandalorian. So it's like a lot of hope for us that, you know, they could really pull something off with the Obi-Wan series, more TV shows, new Clone Wars stuff that's coming out. Maybe they're going to change Rise of Skywalker enough by the time it opens that it's going to like answer more questions and
I think
kind
they
of
should all connect,
be
though, right?
clever and be good.
They should all connect somehow. There should, I think, in everything they put out, there should be hints and tidbits of how it connects to the
I agree with that.
canon or to the movie, to the something. Because even Rogue, which was way out of left field, nobody, you know, expected that kind of movie. But at the end, it connected.
It
No, I think
right
they learned
up to
something.
What I'm trying to
Right
say.
up to
So,
a
you
new
know what?
level.
I think since, you know, Disney acquired Marvel, they really learned something. They learned how to tie in, you know, this master franchise with all these other sub stories that only make it more intriguing and cohesive, which, you know, brings the fans back. Because, I mean, if you don't do that, I mean, the biggest part of Star Wars was the theory, was the lore, was the, you know, the mythical creatures, all the different planets, all the different, you know, rich mythology that, you know, made Star Wars so intriguing.
Force be important in there. How the Force works, also, you know.
Well, also too, I mean, if you really think about it, the whole Mandalorian culture really wasn't explored, you know, so much so, except for maybe in part of the Clone Wars, and then a little bit in Rebels, and now, you know, it's coming full circle finally with the new Clone Wars, you know, finally bringing back the whole, you know, lost, I guess, season that they should have finished. Because remember, the whole climax of what was coming was the Mandalorian War. I mean, that was the huge thing in Clone Wars that they talked about that never came. They even talked about in Rebels that, you know, all this was leading up to this big, huge, you know, conflict. And I just love how they're delving into, you know, the history, the you know, I guess the
inner
myth.
workings of these people.
Well, it's just the fact that there's so much that we don't know about the Mandalorians, and it's interesting even more so the fact that this guy's a foundling. He's not even a true Mandalorian. You know, people are always about like, oh, Jango Fett and Boba Fett. Honestly, they weren't Mandalorians. They were, you know, Jango was just a mercenary. He was just a template for the clones, and he stole Mandalorian armor. He used their technology. The Kaminoans gave him, you know, a lot of the, you know, weapons that he had, but he wasn't a true Mandalorian, and neither was Boba Fett. I mean, people, you know, are always on Boba Fett. He was a cool character, but honestly, you know, and hopefully people don't get the wrong idea, you know, but I think he was pretty lame. I mean, he was kind of like, you know, this bounty hunter kind of, but, you know, he really, you know, compared to Jango, compared to a true Mandalorian, you know, he was like the lamest, I guess, out of all of them. I mean, honestly, he looked cool.
Especially after you watch episode 3 of The Mandalorian and you see how cool all those like Mandalorian covert operative dudes are.
I was just gonna say, isn't that the whole part of the thing that makes them cool is that they're mysterious, that there aren't, you know. I think that me personally, it kind of makes them look badass. Maybe, you know, to a
Well,
certain
thank God
extent,
for
I don't
Boba
want
Fett
to
though,
know.
because that's what made this idea cool. That's what made this whole look cool in the first place, and that's how we got to get this show in the first place. But I know what you mean, Bill, and like George Lucas himself, like directed, you know, certain people, like I think Filoni, to understand that Jango wasn't a Mandalorian. But with this, with the EU that we got canceled in 2014 or 2015, whatever it was, the EU had a lot of like Boba Fett stuff because like they had the Boba Fett lived and he was still chasing.
Well, I mean, they brought back Maul too.
About the EU, but he was still chasing them for like he was chasing them for 30 years. You guys.
Right. Right.
Like, we chased him for 30 years to the point where, remember, Han's daughter went to talk to him and was like, listen, my brother went a little nutty and I need like extra help to
Right.
bring him down. So I need your like mercenary expertise to teach me how to, like, you know, covertly sneak in and subdue like the Sith Lord, who's my brother now.
Right. Right.
And how do, you know, can you please help me with all the tactical stuff? Because she knew Jedi stuff, but she didn't know like super elite tactical stuff.
Right.
So
Right.
she was
Bounty
like,
hunter stuff, you know,
yeah,
like the
like,
guild
she was
stuff.
supposed to do all this like Mandalorian stuff.
Right.
I don't know if like at the time when that book was there, did we know that Django wasn't Mandalorian, therefore Boba really wasn't Mandalorian, therefore was he just using the tactics of Mandalorians and the weapons of Mandalorians, but the stuff that he was, you know, kind of perpetrating about being a Mandalorian wasn't really true? I don't know, or like, you know.
Well, I think a lot of it opened a door for the exploration of the history. I mean, and, you know, what really bothers me sometimes is the fact that, you know, Captain Kennedy goes, well, you know, we really don't have a lot to draw on about, you know, certain things. So it's like, what? It's like we have this whole expanded universe you guys put the kibosh on because you say it's no longer canon. And when Disney took over, they changed all the canon. They changed a lot, even with the Kyber crystals. They changed a lot with what, you know, they considered to be canon and expanded universe.
I hate what they did with the crystals. Let's talk about that for a second. Because this is Saber Talk. We're all about our lightsabers.
Right, right.
This is nonsense with the crystals, isn't it?
I mean, it's all about, it used to be about, you know, the whole crystal and the building of the lightsaber. I mean, and then when they changed the whole thing, now they're all just clear crystals, and then they have memories, they're alive, and now, like, you know, the whole Force Awakens, you know, all those flashback scenes that when Rey touched the lightsaber, it was the fact that those were the crystals' memories that she was experiencing, because the crystals are these live, you know, force sensitive beings, as opposed to just being, you know, a conduit for the force user to use and then to extrapolate into, you know, their weapon using the force. And then before, it used to be the Sith used to use synthetic crystals to, you know, that's why they were red. But now they're saying that they take these crystals and they put their force, dark force energy in it, which bleeds the white crystals, which makes them red. So that whole thing changed. And also, you know, a lot of the colors changed too. Before, when you found the crystals, they were already certain colors. It wasn't the fact that they changed color to the user, you know, as far as, you know, what colors they're using, because now they're only saying that mostly the you know, temple guards are using the yellow crystals.
Like, what happens if like, you remember the scene in episode 3 where Anakin chops off Dooku's hands and the saber is in the air, Dooku's curved hilt, and then it lands in Anakin's hand and it's a red lightsaber and his is blue, and he used it in a cross pattern to like decapitate Dooku, right?
Right, right.
So like in the new crystal lore, what in the F happens when that happens?
Well, I mean, here's the thing: you have to cleanse the crystal. So if you've read the Ahsoka book, which is considered canon now, she stole one of the Inquisitor's double lightsabers. So it had 2 crystals in it, the ones that spin. Have you guys watched Rebels?
Yeah.
So the Inquisitors have that dual lightsaber that has the, you know, the spinning mechanism. Well, what she did was, when she killed one of the Inquisitors, she took the lightsaber, took the 2 crystals, because she left her old, you know, her old lightsabers, you know, to look like she died. So that was kind of like her old, you know, Jedi that she left there. So when in the book, when she leaves, she kills the Inquisitor, takes the crystals, and what she does is cleanses them supposedly with the Force, which turned them white, which turned them back to clear when she created her new katana lightsabers, when she shows up as Fulcrum, as one of the, you know, I guess what you want to call them, just, you know, rebels with Senator Organa. She reappears in, you know, Rebels, that whole saga. So, at that point, those crystals were red, but they were cleansed with, you know, the light side. So I think the biggest misconception with that whole thing too is a lot of these people go, well, there you go, she's a great Jedi. Well, obviously she's not, because then
like that means to me is that this is the lazy way out.
right.
Like, if you had to actually go get like white crystals somewhere, if you want her to have white crystals, there's a story there. Like there's a story with how she got her viridian crystal and her yellow crystal. If you want to go there, she had to climb a mountain, she had to rope, and she had to get it, and she had to fight some monster. But when you just say, she picked it up and it changed.
Well, she had to clean
like, that's so stupid and lazy.
Well,
no one to think anymore. It's like, oh, how did Kylo Ren get a red crystal? Oh, don't be stupid. His blue crystal changed to red when he turned, and it cracked too because it got angry.
Well, suppose that whole thing.
Oh, he went to the temple. It was on fire. He had to crawl underneath the tunnel. He had to fight a demon, and Darth Vader's ghost came out and said, "Please don't do this. I didn't mean it." And then he had to swipe him away, and he had to go through. It's like, what about all that? Oh no, it just changed because when he was sleeping, he had a bad dream. It changed. Don't worry about it. You know, very easy, very easy.
That's the whole thing about like. I would have loved the scene, that lost scene in Return of the Jedi, where Luke is supposedly in the cave, and you see him creating his lightsaber, and you know when he comes out with the V2, you see him in the cave, and he's using the Force, and you see the, you know, all the, you know, even if it was a 5-minute segment of just him, just, you know, putting together his lightsaber, that would have been freaking awesome. I mean, like. That's what they needed to show more in a lot of these, you know, stories. They actually did it in the Clone Wars when the younglings were Padawans. They would have to go out and go into the caves and into the temples and find the crystal, or the crystal would find them. Actually, that was the whole thing. Even Ezra had to go find his own crystal, well, in Rebels. So you know, all these younglings, Padawans used to go out, and even the Gunji. I don't remember if you remember him, but he was a Kashyyyk, you know, sensitive user. It was like Chewbacca, you know, as a youngling, and he found, you know, his crystal, and they all created their own sabers out of, you know, whatever color crystal they found, and whatever, you know, I guess the pieces that they accumulated. Same with Ezra. Ezra, you know, took the pieces that he found and created his own saber, you know, with the blaster and with the pieces that he had acquired, and they showed part of that, you know. And like I said, I mean, that was part of the thing I think they missed, you know, that they're trying to recreate in Savvy's workshop, and also, I guess, even with some of the newer lore. But how cool would it have been to see how Kylo Ren created his lightsaber, like how that happened.
You know what they also, like, I think missed the boat with the Savvy's workshop, now that you bring it up? It's like, you know, they have these holograms now. Like, it's like Tupac can dance for you, or like Michael Jackson.
Yeah, right.
Hologram. They should have it set up in Savvy's workshop, but I don't think they do because I already watched the whole video of them creating it. That, like, in the middle of it, like, the power goes out, or whatever. Like, you know, while you're creating it, like, you suck in the force so badly, like, out of the air or whatever. It's such a disturbance that the power goes out.
Right.
And, a hologram appears with a little smoke, a little special effects, because we're talking about a Disney theme park here. And it appears a Jedi ghost guiding you through this little issue. You know, he's like, okay, listen, it looks like something may be going wrong. You guys have to focus more, like, you know, something's going wrong with the manipulation of this crystal. And then so everyone concentrates harder, like as if they're praying or something. Then the ghost kind of fades away, power comes back on, and you have the, you know, where are people like me when they're coming up with this stuff? I have no idea.
See, this is what kills me.
There's a part in there. There's a part where, have you seen the videos already, where Yoda comes out talking? They could add a Yoda.
Right.
Yoda, because they got to give George Lucas like $10 if Yoda.
Yeah, they should have. They could have easily. That was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, they can make up any. Yeah, you know what? They can have like a little. They can have like a little Yoda. That's like blue, or just something else that's like a Jedi you never saw, but it's like, listen, I'm the Jedi helper that I've helped people. I've helped Padawans for 10,000 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, you may have heard of me.
And them holograms, man, they look real. They could set it up in Savvy's workshop where,
I
like you
think
said,
so.
everything dims down and shuts
Like some
out.
smoke comes
Right.
out.
Have some
smoke.
music.
They just have the colors change, and then
Yeah.
you hear the voice. In the
Maybe
back.
like the binary sunset a little bit in the back, a little binary sunset
Yeah,
music.
Yeah.
The hologram comes up. Little kids like they a tear appears in the dad's eye. The child is looking up.
And then and the ghost.
Yeah, right, exactly,
The
right.
ghost fades. You right now one with the forks and
Yeah.
fades.
Yeah, right.
And they congratulate you. The ghost congratulates you a little bit. You know, says that you've done like a great job at this, and little kid can feel great about themselves.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
You know, I think the big thing is they rushed everything. You know, it was a big cash grab. Once they were trying to recoup that $4 billion that they gave Lucas and said, like, you know, we gotta, you know, hurry up and kind of like get on this cash cow as soon as possible because we just paid this huge chunk of change. And then they went after Fox. Now they own, you know, Fox and Hulu and all this other stuff besides they own Marvel. I mean, honestly, they own like almost 2/3 of the industry now, which is pretty disturbing because it's almost like this huge, you know, they've almost become the galactic empire of entertainment to a point where I just pray that they don't do what they did to Star Wars to Marvel because Marvel was so good in what they did. And now, like, you know, 3 of their top, I guess, you know, characters aren't really going to be in the universe anymore. I mean, you know, Captain America's not going to be there. Iron Man, unless they bring him back in some strange, I guess, alternate universe or something. They're talking about bringing him back. I mean, it's like I don't even really care about a lot of these new characters.
Yeah, like there's kind of a bad
I
issue.
heard they
with
were
that
bringing
too.
Robert Downey Jr. back for a series or something on Disney Plus.
Oh, really?
To do an Iron Man series or something like that. I read about. I don't know if it's true, but you know how that is.
Well, what
I just want to see I just want to see an Obi-Wan. I mean, you know, they've been talking about doing this forever. Even McGregor's been on. He wanted it on. Now, I think with the Mandalorian, they can showcase and say, look, you know, look at the success so far of what this has done. You know, we could bring in Obi-Wan. They're talking about doing a Darth Maul. They're talking about doing, you know, I don't know about doing the Andor guy from Rogue One. He wasn't really that interesting to me. I don't know.
I think what they're going to do, Bill, I think that they're going to eventually see what didn't work. I mean, they have to hear everybody complaining about The Last Jedi, and they have to hear everybody talking good stuff about The Mandalorian. So hopefully that'll show them right from wrong, and they'll start following the proper footsteps, you know?
What I think, and you're right about that, because what I think is that when Disney paid George Lucas, when they bought George Lucas, I think Disney's main goal was how can we make this fun? How can we bring, you know, a new generation in and make this fun? So I think they weren't really focusing on the whole theory, lore, and they forgot about like the OG OT fans. They weren't expecting all the backlash because they were like, they're not really going to care. They're not going to bother. It's so long ago. Let's make it fun and new and fresh. Now they got all this backlash from the last 2 movies. And now they're like, oh, shit, how are we going to make this one kind of deep in the plot and story? Because now they gotta make everybody happy. They don't know how to do it.
And that's the problem, because they keep bringing in these political agendas. They're, you know, it's like you got to really think about who were your major, you know, market. 80%, no offense, were white men. I mean, they were from the ages of, you know, 20 to 60. Because if you think about it, you know, our generation, we're all what, in our 40s and 50s, you know, as far as loving Star Wars, and, you know, maybe some of the younger people that came on board when the prequels came out, and then they got turned on to the original trilogy. And then it's just one of those things where you're cutting off your nose to spite the face, you know, when you're not considering your target market. And then on top of that, you bring in a political agenda where you want to make, you know, women come into the series, which is fine. I mean, Leia, I think, was a great, you know, strong character. But then when you're doing role reversals where you know, especially in The Last Jedi, all these women of power now, you know, it's like this Captain Holt's like, who is this person? You know, they want to bring in, you know, Leia's general, and then they want to bring in like all these other, you know, female leads like Rey. All of a sudden,
Yeah, the problem with that is though, it's like what they have wrong is they don't need to break down our heroes to build up. Like that's a bully attitude, you know.
Right.
Like, to break, like it's like for me to feel better, I have to make fun of you.
Right.
To bring you down, no, but that doesn't have to be. Like we can both, like I can compliment you and make you look good, and still I can rise up. I don't have to, like, bringing you down to make me rise up. That doesn't work. That's not going to help. Like, you know, to say, oh, look at Luke. He's a bum now. He's not the hero you thought, and all that. Just to make Rey look better, you don't have to do that.
No,
you just don't. Like, that's not. You know, you don't have to make fun of people to feel better about yourself. And I think that's what they've been doing with these choices. It's very odd. Like, rather than showing some progression of a certain character in a natural way, you're like, well, let's just, you know, take one of the people that they know, humiliate them,
right.
so that the person standing next to them like looks cooler.
Right.
Like they're not drinking like milk out of a sea mammal. So therefore she looks cool because she's standing there going, "You're weird." And it's like we're left being like, "This is crazy. Like we paid for this."
Right.
This is a scene of Luke's life where we don't need to see it. It's like seeing him in the bathroom.
Well, that was the whole biggest slap in the face. I mean, when he hands her his lightsaber and he throws it, that was the biggest slap to all the diehard fans right there. That right there was like, F you, you know, what was that? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, no matter how you wanted to portray Luke, you know, even Yoda in his pseudo senility still was the most wisest, the most powerful. Even he injected humor, but when it was all said and done, he maintained his composure, he maintained his wisdom, and at the very end of the day, even though he was a puppet, he was still, you know, the freaking best Jedi until he, you know, became one with the Force of Dagobah. I mean, even his last words, you know, and now coming back as a Force ghost, I mean, that's what they're trying to do too with like Hayden Christensen. That's the whole debate, how they're going to bring that, because there were supposedly scenes that were shot with him being a young and then him being old. Because if you're going to bring back Palpatine, you got to bring back Anakin. Now it's going to bring this whole thing almost like full circle, because it almost defeats the whole purpose of what, you know, Luke did for Vader at Return of the Jedi. To now it's like, all right, you know, now what are we going to do? They're backpedaling now to try to figure it out, to say, okay, how can we appease, you know, the diehard fans? How can we appease the millennials that are, you know, we're trying to bring in, you know, this new generation? How can we appease the women? How can we appease all these other political groups that, you know, and ethnic groups that feel left out of this universe? I mean, for God's sake, it's a science fiction. I mean, it was a space opera. It was a space western, spaghetti western, whatever you want to call it, you know. And it's just to a point now. It's where now it's become this whole political fiasco where it's just like, why can't you just tell a good story? Why can't we just have some, you know, good, you know, good versus bad, light versus dark? Why couldn't they bring in some new lightsabers? We had one new lightsaber out of like the whole trilogy. They just keep fixing one of them.
I think we should have had far more characters overall. In the sequel trilogy, there should have been like so many aliens, and like I think there's too many human beings. Like, you know, they want to insert just all, I guess, people we can relate to, but that's just it seems really forced. It's like, I work in the graphic design industry, and you come across all these stock photos, you know, when you're looking for something to advertise. And when you see the stock photo, like you're trying to look for diverse photos, but you don't want it to be too apparent. It's a very fine, delicate line to not look corny and like you're trying too hard. So a lot of these diverse pictures on these stock photo websites, they're all like too much, you know? It's like there's
Right.
like one Chinese person, one white person, one black person, one Indian person. It's like, well, this isn't like real life exactly. Like sometimes there's like 2 or 3 Indian people, and then maybe there's 2 or 3 Chinese people, maybe there's like one white person. It's like it's pretty random. Like when you're in like an office building or something, all different types of people.
Right.
So it's just kind of weird when you have like a bunch of human characters. Everyone's like a different gender. It's like, you know, your mind tries to just be like, okay, let me just enjoy this movie, but sometimes it's just like a little bit weird when you feel like they're trying a little too hard.
Exactly.
We're like, just let it be natural, you know? Like if you want a lot of people, bring in a lot of people. Then, like I'm always referencing Game of Thrones, they had a lot of characters. It was hard to remember the names of all the characters. It was very interesting and allowed replayability. Like you can go back home, or you want to go back to the theater, you want to go back to that you know, show to watch it again, because you're like, I don't remember. There was so much happened, I just don't remember. But when they make it very simplistic like this, where there's just 3 people, there's no long names to remember, there's not many characters at all. Anybody you see who you're familiar with, they tease you with the person, or they kill the person.
Right.
They humiliate the person, and you're like, okay, so you're trying to find something interesting about the new people, but there's not a whole lot that they're giving you. Whenever there's a spark of interest, like some creativity going on, like, oh, is Finn going to become a Jedi? Like he looks like he can handle this.
Right. Right.
Or is he going to go learn from Luke, or maybe he's going to learn like from Rey as like a second hand kind of learning? They never develop that, and then there's just no hint as far as what they're going to provide in the 3rd movie. There was never a hint about Palpatine being there or anything. That's very strange for someone who likes to investigate and to really buy in and to do some research and to rewatch something a 2nd and 3rd time. When you do that to these newer sequel trilogy movies, more is revealed on the negative side than the positive side. You go back to review the old trilogy, the original trilogy, constantly things will be revealed that make more and more sense to you, and everything lines up 100% properly. There's
That's
just
the problem.
Mistakes in it.
Well, you know what? That's because the problem, there was no vision and there was no direction. I mean, if you really think about it, these were just like, okay, we have the license. What are we going to do with it? And they were like, all right, we want to kind of bring in like a new fan base. We're trying to bring in all the spectrum of the universe into this. We're almost, you know, alienating our old fan base. But you got to remember, you know, your old fan base is what kept us alive for so long. It's the 4 of us, not only the love of the movies, but lightsabers. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's one of the things that has spawned so much community is the lightsabers. So not just the Star Wars itself, because it's so rich in its history and mythology and its detail and things like that, but just the fact that, I mean, you know, the EU itself and Legends and video games. I mean, I've been seeing like 20 different hilts of the Fallen Order lightsaber before the game was even released. You know, and we don't even know how accurate, you know, half of that stuff was. And people were putting out these lightsabers months before they even like got out. I mean, that to me is phenomenal to think about, because the hype of the fact is, when you think about Star Wars, what do you think about? You know, I mean, besides anything else, you think of lightsabers, right? That is one of the things that is like every individual, you know, Force user, Sith, Jedi, Dark Light, whatever you want to call it, is going to have their individual lightsaber. They're going to have their individual hilt. They're going to have their individual color. They're going to have their individual fighting style. They're going to have their individual look. I mean, that to me is awesome, because then it opened up a whole nother realm for cosplay, for people to, you know, want to, you know, create, you know, what you guys do.
You're 100% right, dude. Like, are you playing the Fallen Order right now?
No, I mean, I don't have time. I got 3 kids. So I'm lucky if I get a chance to play with my lightsaber once in a while.
Well, so, there's actually one scene in the very beginning of the game. It's not giving anything away. That you mentioned the Sith Inquisitor before, and Inquisitor, like within the first couple minutes, it's kind of like a cutscene. I don't know if you're actually playing when she says this, but you're kind of fighting her a little bit as like the game opens up, and then she says to you, like, I guess you form some kind of pose for defense, and she says, I recognize that pose. You've learned from such and such a master or whatever. You know, all very cool stuff. Like that is like this type of stuff, like within that 10 seconds of dialogue and story, you get to learn a lot about what's like already there's more meat there than some of the stuff in the new movie, you know? So it's like very interesting that way where like, you know, she sees that you have a lightsaber, she battles you a little bit, they back up, they have a dialogue, and she says, you know, I recognize that fighting style or something like that. So it's just to let you know that they're thinking about this, at least in this video game. And the video game, I think, turned out like so much better than I was really even hoping, you know. I think it turned out really, really great.
Well, I know from a lot of the reviews and a lot of the things that I've been researching on it is the fact that, you know, it brought back, you know, the nostalgia of Knights of the Old Republic. That was one of my favorite games just for the fact that, you know, it was so rich in story. You could play Sabak. I mean, the fact that, you know, you didn't, you know, kind of had a mystery. It was almost like this murder mystery type of thing going on. And then on top of that, you know, you were able to customize your lightsaber. You could have a double lightsaber. You could have different crystals. You could have different colors. You could acquire different pieces. I mean, I thought that was phenomenal. And not only that, but I mean, you know, it also delved into like the different like weapons they had as far as the blades that were not necessarily lightsabers, but were able to fight, you know, with lightsabers. I forget what they're called, but there's types of swords that they were able to use that, you know, you could actually battle lightsaber with without destroying it.
Yeah, like they bring that into the game a little bit by saying that it's like after Order 66, and I guess Palpatine has kind of like given the stormtroopers a little bit of an edge against any remaining Jedi by providing them with those like first order type weapons that you see the guy fighting Finn have. They have, like, even though it's only like, let's say 5 years after the Jedi Purge Order 66, or a couple years after, I don't know what it is in the game, but they have provided the stormtroopers those weapons. So some of them run up to you and actually bop you in the head, and then you try to hit them and they deflect it with this almost like what the Grievous guards used.
Right.
Magna guards.
Well, I know back in the early like drawings when they were doing, they originally had stormtroopers with lightsabers and shields and, you know, different weapons. I mean, some of the earlier sketches, I was looking at some of the you know, earlier sketches that they were, you know, doing, and they're you know, incredible. I mean, as far as just the concepts that they had, but
yeah,
the fact that
at the end of the Mandalorian show, there's all these sweet concept sketches.
Oh, I love it.
That's nice. And then the music, I like when the music kicks in at the end. You get to see all those like concept sketches from the parts of the episode.
Well, I like how it's just you know, it's its own thing, but it's tied so well to the Star Wars universe, especially the trilogy. Because if you notice some of the Easter eggs, like they were eating Salacious Crumb, you know, the lizard monkey, and you know, and there's another thing too where they
I don't think he died on the sail barge, no?
Yeah, well, I mean, here's another thing too. Here's another Easter egg. Remember what the container, the Beskar armor that was given to the Mandalorian, you know what that is?
Is it an ice cream container?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, there's so many like intricate things where they used to take the old props.
That's true.
And that's what, like, you know,
like
this was about.
You know, the Graflex was a flash gun, and they purpose.
Right.
I just love that. You always see weird like garbage cans walking, even in the Mandalorian, like you said. There's those garbage can droids walking around.
Yep.
It's fantastic.
I mean, you know, and the thing is too, he actually shot on site. You know what like the original trilogy did. They're going to Tunisia. They were going to different parts of the world. And even though they might have added parts of green screen, but the actual texture, the actual, you know, landscape, the atmosphere was organic. It was actually on, you know, a place like in a country somewhere where, that they actually filmed on location. So it
I
had
think
that.
they filmed the Obi-Wan series as Tatooine. They could use some of these sets in the Mandalorian.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it would tie in perfectly.
It would look like Tatooine.
And the fact that too, I mean, they brought in the land speeders from the first episode, and they're always referencing too, no droids. So I mean, that always goes back to what,
There is so many references. Like in this latest episode 3, wasn't there a lot? There was a couple references I was noticing. Did you notice any?
I didn't pick any up tonight.
Kind of.
Well, remember, okay, here's.
First time I saw it, I was like engrossed in the story.
Yeah, there was a couple little things I was like noticing, and I can't recall any.
Well, here's one of them. Okay, so remember remember when the Mandalorian's talking to I forget his name, Seagal. Is it Quill or Seagal or the Ugnaught? And the one always says, "I've spoken."
Yeah.
And he's talking about. Yeah, I don't think they like me too much. The Jawa when he stole all parts of the ship. And he goes, yeah, it's like, I don't know why. Maybe because you disintegrated a couple of their friends.
Yeah.
Well, remember in Empire, what did Vader tell Boba?
No disintegration.
Well, there you go. So I mean, those little tiny references, only like the diehards would kind of remember, because it plays so well into this because of the time period. Because, like I said, this is 5 years right after Return of the Jedi, so it's kind of like we're getting almost like the aftermath of what happened after Return, after the Galactic Empire disbanded, after Luke Skywalker redeemed his father, and this is like everybody's just scattering and figuring out, okay, now what do we do now? But at the same time, it also seems like there's still some kind of ulterior motive or agenda that still may be, orchestrated by a force user like Palpatine or Snoke or somebody that is still orchestrating a lot of these, experiments, a lot of the stuff that's going on.
The Mandalorian is so cool, man. It's got everybody so to the story and the plot. Like everyone's curious to see what's going on, what's happening, why is it happening, what's really behind it. Because you're right, like to the episode 3, which we just watched, we don't know why they want that little baby Yoda thing, or you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Who's actually behind the scenes that wanted the bounty on him? You know what I'm trying to say? And so you make a lot of sense with that, Bill. It really does kind of hint to that time frame right after Return of the Jedi and stuff, which is. If that's the way they meant it, that's the way they planned it out for the show to be. That was thinking smart, man, because it's got everyone intrigued right now.
Well, it's because if you think about it, it's like there's so much gap that happens between the movies that the only way that they were able to tell a lot of stories was through the expanded universe, through comic books, through novelizations, and then some of them they consider canon, some of them they don't consider canon. And then it gets to the point where, it almost, leaves speculation up to, okay, what really happened. And I think this is filling in some of the canonical gaps that us diehards want to see or know, like, what happened after Return of the Jedi? I mean, what were the events that happened between Return and, The Force Awakens? I mean, there was like, how many years, 30, 40 years or so between those two films or those two instances of what happened, and that was the biggest letdown for me, was when The Force Awakens happens. You had so much story to go on that they could have just a little bit of narrative, just a little bit of flashback, just a little bit of maybe even just Luke talking about coming off in the beginning of the scene, explaining what happened in those last years, and just hearing maybe something like, okay, well, in this time period, I tried to do this, but I felt like I failed, and blah blah blah, and then just explain a little bit, and trying to bring in who the Knights of Ren were, and bringing in some of this other lore, and this other maybe where Snoke maybe came in the picture, and just trying to see like the little bit of these, like, I guess, glimpses of, how these things just happen, instead of just throwing you right into something and going, okay, here it is, 40 years later, you figure it out. Instead of going, okay, here's a little bit of like, you know, what's been going on. But that's what I think I like about The Mandalorian too. And here's one other thing to consider too, okay, is that what are you guys' thoughts on this character? Because you got to think about two things. Number one, he's not a true Mandalorian. He was a foundling, and he was brought into the Mandalorian, you know, culture, you know, and trained to be one of them. So it's almost like he's living kind of like this, these two, you know, lines that he's crossing, he's walking right now. Because it's obvious in the third episode, because since he was abandoned or because he was, you know, orphaned, you know, he's seeing himself almost in this Yoda type child being orphaned. And, you know, after getting this huge bounty and, you know, getting his Beskar armor, it's like, okay, he has no problems, you know, being this chaotic neutral type of being where, you know, he has no problem disintegrating Jawas, but yet he just kind of screwed himself now where, you
He's
know,
wanted.
yeah, right. Now everybody in the known universe that is in the Bounty Hunters Guild is coming after him.
Well, I think he's like, first of all, I'm very surprised with the kind of the high honor of this Mandalorian group. Like at first, like kind of being revealed through the Mandalorian main character, where he goes back for the baby Yoda. I mean, that's kind of the turning point that we can see that he's like making this turn. And then when his friends come to help and reveal themselves and kind of ruin their whole secret thing and kind of place themselves on the side of the Mandalorian by putting not only themselves at risk, but their whole, like, I forget what they call it, their whole covenant or whatever they're calling it.
Right.
That they're really kind of saying, like, and the super goofy scene at the end when he comes up and salutes, which is just stupid. I mean, that's dumb.
I don't know. Well, you know,
But
it goes back
that
to
kind of shows. I think that was just an opportunity for the Mandalorian to say, like, I need one of those, like meeting
right, the backpack. Right, he said that too. Well, he did say that.
Yeah,
I
But,
said it. I want to get
that was
that.
kind. That was, you know, they didn't need that. That was goofy.
I think that was
show
just set up for what
excellent,
his
but
next thing is going
Right.
to be, because every time he gets paid, his armor is upgraded. I was telling my wife last night, I said, you know what, this is a video game. I'm watching a video game waiting to happen. It's like, you know, Assassin's Creed, you get the bounty, you go looking for the person, you gain XPs, and you can go upgrade your armor. I said, it's a video game waiting to happen. It's the same thing. I said, why is that guy flying up, God knows how many feet up in the sky, like he's Iron Man now, and
he's like War Machine.
yeah, like
Yeah, but you know what?
And I thought to myself, that's a setup, because that's the next thing he wants to buy when he gets his bounty.
Right. Well, I think they're setting up the main character because these guys seem to be like, they have reviewed the EU a little bit. They understand
Right.
a little bit, right, Bill? They're setting this guy up to be Mandalore.
Right.
He just became, no, actually, not setting up. He just became Mandalore at the end of episode 3. You mark my words. Like, I don't know if they're going to use the term, but I think they already used the term Mandalore for something in the show. I think the armor said it. But he just became their Mandalore.
Right.
Because they wouldn't, like, by that action, I think that says, like, you're the leader.
Well, I think though too. I mean, just the fact that
No, by them helping.
Oh,
By
okay.
them coming in, because remember they kind of had that little scuffle where they didn't trust him, or
right
of,
when he walked in with the Beskar armor.
kind of them saying, like, we're behind you.
You got your back.
Okay.
You know, we got your back. And there's something in the EU called the Mandalore, and that's basically like Mandalorian's leader.
Okay.
Right.
It's who they deem as, like.
So you think that they're going to eventually bring him in?
Make him the leader.
Yeah, I think he just became Mandalore without them actually saying it.
Gotcha.
And we'll be unofficial Mandalore, and we'll be told that later, you know, that's what happened.
Well, I mean, just the fact of their actions, though. I mean, you really think about it, because to really have that loyalty, they said that only one could come out of hiding at a time, and actually them coming out all at the same time and showing them, revealing themselves, because they were living underground for so long that they came out in their full force and exposed themselves.
Yeah, and didn't one of them say something about now they have to go and hide?
Yeah, he's like,
right.
Find a new house or something, and he said,
a new location to hide, and yeah, this is.
But he also said this is the way. Yeah. So, the fact of how much code is involved, and respect that they gave this foundling. Like I said, he wasn't even a true Mandalorian, but because of what he's done, they respect him so much now that he's going to be like a pre-Vizsla. He's, without the Darksaber, because of what he's doing, he's almost becoming this unspoken leader, icon, paradigm example of what, the Mandalorians are going to start to unite and almost back him up to, come out of hiding, come back in full force, because that was their whole thing. They were strength in numbers.
Yeah.
And because they were such a warring clan that their power was in their numbers. Their power was in their loyalty.
Palpatine must have went after them for that purge that they were talking about, which must have been when Palpatine was in power. There was some kind of purge, which they keep revealing in the in the weapon forging scenes. They do these flashbacks.
Yeah.
Kind of attacked, and I guess his parents are getting attacked.
Well, you remember Rebels, you guys? So there's a part where Sabine actually created a weapon that only destroys Beskar armor. So any Mandalorian that was wearing it, they would get fried instantly.
Whoa!
So that was part of their purge, and some of the the parts of some of those different houses were siding with the Imperials. They were becoming Imperial, Mandalorians, and some of the other houses.
That's probably how he was able to take care of them, because he sent them after them.
Right.
But I want to focus in the show about the weaponry. Like, they really focus in on the armor, the making of the armor. Even from episode 1, they're doing this. This is incredible, right? They're showing this forge that creates their weaponry. She has to open a special cabinet. I'm assuming on like the 3rd or 4th watch that those special silvery calipers and tools that she goes to are made of Beskar themselves. I feel like when they're focusing in on the doorway, there's a sigil above the door. That must be her
signet.
She keeps like talking about him getting one eventually. And my theory is, after watching it tonight with you guys, is that thing is a Beskar item.
Right.
Along with her tools must be Beskar. How sweet are the whistling birds?
That's sweet. I mean, they wanted to give him the Mudhorn. Remember, she wanted to give him the Mudhorn signet, but he refused it because he said his enemy was the one that actually killed it, and he didn't want to take the honor of taking it. So that's why she gave him the whistling birds as the signet and created that special weapon, which is pretty badass. I mean, you gotta admit, yes, especially taking out like 4 or 5. Troopers.
A shame he had to use them within like 10, 11 minutes of getting them.
Yeah, but you know what? He needed to. Because there's only 8 episodes.
He needed it. Yeah, he needed, and I thought we were going to have to wait. I'm just really happy with the progression. We're really getting, although there's these slow moments with him like walking around like it's a desert type of Western thing, we are getting the story unfolding. Within one episode, we see like them come full wrap on something, which is very nice. It's not like, fooling anybody. It's not making anybody wait. It's not making anybody upset. They're just showing us a full arc in an episode, which is quite nice. Like, we get to see it wrap up. They fly away. We get to wait for something kind of new to happen next time. That's pretty cool.
And I love the mystery. I mean, that's the other thing too. It's keeping with what the original trilogies did. And even the prequels, the mystery of like, okay, what's happening next? Where who was this person behind this remaining galactic empire? What's he going to do next? That's the whole thing, where it's going to start bringing in that. And here's something too. Will they bring in Jedi? Will there be lightsabers, or does it not need it to make the show successful? That's a question I pose to you guys, because this is Saber Talk.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to see a lightsaber, but I didn't think we were going to see lightsabers in Solo either. And we saw a lightsaber at the end of Solo, so I don't know what's going to happen at the end of this.
I for one would love to see the Darksaber show up in this show.
Ooh, wouldn't that be something?
How about that? To actually see the Darksaber. You know, we've only seen it in cartoon form.
That's
You know?
that's an
Which is
idea.
great.
Harris.
I mean, I would love to see the
I did not even
Darksaber
think
show
of
up.
that.
Well, think about this. If he winds up with the Darksaber,
Yeah, you know.
Really cool.
if he winds up it, then you know he will be Mandalore because whatever house holds the Darksaber unites all the Mandalorians. So who's to say there's not going to be one final battle with him with the Darksaber fighting whatever left of the Galactic Empire to save this baby? I mean that could be the climax of the show. I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean that would be really freaking cool. I mean, I'm just saying, as far as that would be one way they could incorporate a lightsaber.
Focusing in a lot on the weaponry and the intricacies of the weaponry. So if he came upon, you know, he's going to like us look for a jetpack next, construct a jetpack. You know, maybe they're going to introduce that, or maybe that's a season 2 thing, or maybe that's going to be talked about and we're not actually going to see it. But I don't know. That was kind of crazy to think that maybe the Darksaber. I don't know how.
Hey, Bill, we hear Baby Yoda back there behind you.
Yeah, my Baby Yoda's you know, a little hungry. I think she saw one of them little frog lizards jumping around. They were gonna go eat it. So no, you know, I really, this is what Star Wars fans have needed for a long time. I think, you know, just take it back, you know, kind of just remind the fans and the people what it was really about, you know, and really get into the characterizations, get into a story, get into a direction, and not only that, but just get into Star Wars. I mean, you know, I really felt like it lost its soul in episode 7 and 8, you know, of what the true soul of what Star Wars was, you know, and
Yeah, pretty disappointing stuff.
8 more than 7.
I just really wish, you know, I want to see some new lightsabers.
It made it worse, right?
No.
You know, and that's the whole thing. What do you know? Let's segue into episode 9. What do you think about Dark Ray's lightsaber? Have you seen the Corbanth? Corbanth actually has one for sale, and you can get it installed.
Are you talking about like one that would unfold into?
It unfolds. It's a switchblade. They were talking about putting profis in it with you know, with the Plectrum Pixel.
Huh.
And go on the Corbanth website. They actually have it on sale. They're supposedly, I think they're doing a Black Friday sale, but that was one of the options. You can get hilts that were available for sale that were uninstalled. You can get installed ones, and that was one of the ones that caught my eye. I was like, you know, because of the Fallen Order, you know, as soon as you see like the new lightsaber coming out, everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. You know, you're starting to see all these, you know, I guess their own interpretations of it. But this actually looked like the real deal. I mean, it looked, you know, spot on. It looked like it was, you know, workable. And the way they were talking about it, it seemed like it could be installed. And with Profi and, you know, the Plectrum.
Well, yeah, I mean, the lightsaber is big. So, I mean, I'm seeing something at Ultra Sabers. I don't see the Corbanth one yet, but
go to Corbanth.com or Corbanth.com, or just go into Corbanth, because that's where I saw it. Because I think the one you're saying at Ultra Sabers was the domicile, which was
yeah, I mean, the only person I could see wielding that type of thing that unfolds like that is like a big alien monster, which is, you know, like one of the what is it, like the seventh brother or something, one of those Sith
right.
Brothers. Like he could have that, you
or
know.
Prong Krell.
To have that even in a fantasy type of scene with Rey, where it could be like a dark fantasy or like a dark vision.
Right.
It's a little too much. I think it's such a reach, you know. It's such a reach. But let me see. I'm on Corbanth Sabers. Let's see, there's Sabers.
I mean, remember what was it, Prong Krell? He was one. He used to wield dual sabers like that, where they would kind of detach because he had the 4 arms, and he had the dual wielding. You guys see it yet?
Yeah, I see it. Let me see if I get a good picture of this.
I mean, it looks spot on. I mean, I was looking at the other day, and it was pretty freaking cool. I mean, and also they said he can do the install, and with Profi.
Yeah, so
You see it?
I don't see a picture of it fold. Oh, here it is folded. Okay.
There it is, folded. It looks exactly like the picture.
We are offering, this is Corbant Sabers. We're offering a folding saber hilt called Darkness. Machined aluminum hilt with a folding hinge, locks into place and can be folded back up with the press of a button and locks into place easily. You could choose between Profi version 2.2 or Crystal Focus 10 soundboard that takes 7/8" Neopixel blades. This is installed. This is an installed hilt in a very limited run with 10 units. So I guess that means, 10 units. Its design is inspired by recently seen sabers that will enhance your saber hilt collection. I really wonder though, with all the ways that they keep kind of changing, or changing episode 9, they're on like their 4th version that they're testing and everything else. Right. Version and all that stuff. Is like, how many of these scenes that we've seen in the trailer are actually going to make it in to the movie?
And how long is it going to be? I mean, maybe this could just be a flashback.
I wonder if some of those scenes, some of those little short, quick clips and scenes are not even in the movie, because they do that a lot sometimes.
I know. It's basically clickbait. They just want people to just like speculate and theorize and have something to talk about until the next clip they release, or until the movie comes. I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, the movie's going to be out in less than a month. I mean, so everybody's already like, I'm just wondering how they're going to get it done, because
I mean, I keep hearing that they're still playing with it, they're still re-editing it. I mean,
yeah, well, they've edited the ending, I think, like 9 times.
I mean, you know what? Like, I feel like is a good point. Like, the only, excuse my pun, the only ray of light in this situation is the editing.
Yeah, I know.
If you recall back to the very first Star Wars, George Lucas, I think his wife had to come in. She basically saved the day with the editing. There was garbage until she edited it, or helped him edit it into an actual movie. Do you remember how everybody was so surprised? All the actors, everyone involved in the movie, thought the movie was going to be awful.
Like New Hope. That's what they did for New Hope.
It became something incredible. So it's such a reach. And
well, you know what? They brought Lucas in.
It's like a 0% chance, but wouldn't it be something if it became something through the editing? If they took the whatever million hours of footage that they probably gathered and actually created something that made sense.
Well, I think the fact that, I really hope they salvage this story. Just the fact that, I don't want to see this movie fail, honestly. Just for the fact that I'm a diehard Star Wars fan. No matter how bad we think 7 and 8 might have been, there was really some good things about it. I mean, you do got to think about, like, the Kylo Ren lightsaber was phenomenal. I mean, you guys got to admit that, as far as being something new and something different, right?
There was, like, I had some hope for Kylo Ren. Like, my buddy got me a poster of Kylo Ren before Episode 7. The trailer looked cool. There was a bunch of good. It looked okay. Like, it looked like it might be going somewhere. The Kylo Ren lightsaber was definitely cool. But, it was at the same time. At the same time that it was cool, I don't know. Tell me if this is possible. At the same time that it was cool, it was also corny.
Yeah,
that was a reach too. It was like this folding lightsaber. It's like, what can we do that's different? How about this? How about write a good story?
Right.
Forget about everything else. It's like, I am so sick of this with the whole, like, what color is a lightsaber? This is stable. You know what? Shut up. I don't care. Just write the story as if they're holding a sword.
Right.
And we'll put the lightsaber in later. It doesn't matter what kind of lightsaber it is. It's just a matter of, okay, they have a sword fight. It's emotional. Here's why, because we set it up properly. These lightsaber fights that they're having are not emotional,
Yeah.
and there's nothing behind them to kind of make us care. You know,
no, and that's the whole thing. A lot of people just don't care about the characters.
Trilogies, there was like something behind all the fights that really mattered to the audience.
Well, it drove the story. I mean, the whole purpose of it was
about the story and the plot. Like they don't care about that. Now they're trying to look at how to reach the new demographic and how to make it fun.
Right.
You know, and they're not thinking about, again, the OG OT fans that think about the plot. And I guess, again, they weren't expecting this type of backlash from half the planet that are original fans. And now they're like, oh shit, how do we fix it? How do we make it deep and meaningful for them, but keep it fun and, you know, and all fresh and new for the kids, for the kiddies, for Disney World? You know?
Well, they were saying, oh, Star Wars is just a movie for kids, you know, but, you know, we've all proved them wrong over the years. And the fact of the matter is, kids don't buy the merchandise. Kids don't take their kids to the movies. The millennials aren't buying the stuff. You know, it's us. We're the ones that buy the stuff. We're the ones that watch the movies. We're the ones that buy our kids the stuff. We're the ones that take our kids to Disney World. And mostly, you guys especially are the ones making the lightsabers. I mean, you know, you really think about it. It's like, how many times are we going to see another version of the Grand Flex? I mean, first we had, you know, the Ray Flex, then you had the Broke Flex, now you have the Fixed Flex. You know, why can't we get a Pike? Why can't we get a Saber Staff? Why can't we get something that,
they certainly hinted at it with her staff.
Right.
You know, they hinted at it originally, where could we get something that was maybe like a lightsaber Pike?
Right.
Something like that wouldn't have been like, you know, I wouldn't have felt like that was a reach, because
because she used her staff in episode 7.
Yeah, like there could be something about that weapon. People were speculating something about that weapon. And if you go back to the original trilogy, what I kind of feel like, you know, there were certain things that people say, okay, well, the episode 7 was a rehash of episode 4. Right. But in my opinion, they didn't rehash the proper elements. The proper elements that should have been rehashed was that the main characters that we are introduced to and that we are following, we're following for good reasons.
Right.
The good reasons were Luke and Leia were brother and sister, right? We find that out later.
Right, we didn't know that.
Both of them have the Force, right?
Right.
In this new trilogy, and we had Han, who was like the pilot, the friend, and the love of one of the main characters, and he was a main character himself, and he was also comedy element, and he had a sort of a manliness element, like an alpha element to him, and he also had a hero element when you didn't know, like let's say for instance in episode 5, when we thought maybe Luke was dying because he was out in the cold, and Han picked up the lightsaber and cut the tauntaun. You kind of get the feeling as a kid or as someone who's watching that for the first time, like, could this be the hero if this guy dies? Or when Yoda says, you know, there is another, if you haven't seen episode 6 by that point, you're just kind of following that story along, you will think to yourself, well, maybe it's Han. You know, he had the lightsaber a little while ago.
Right.
You know, if Luke doesn't come back, maybe it's Han and Leia who are going to be the heroes. My point is, in these new movies, when you have Finn and you have Poe and you have Rey, if they were really following the map of episode 4, you would have placed 2 of those 3 people as Force users, right? So you have Poe, who in the comic books has a Force tree planted in his backyard by Luke Skywalker himself. He's flying circles around TIE fighters, destroying 9 of them in 25 seconds.
Yeah, right.
That's a Force user, but they never do a callback to that. They never come full circle with that. Are they going to do something in episode 9? We have Finn, who picks up a lightsaber, who fights a Force user. Like I said in another video, it was only for 5 seconds, but it's 5 seconds too long for a non-Force user. He has the Force, okay? Like, at least if you take episode 7, I think he has the Force because he deflected a couple shots from Kylo Ren and he got sliced up the back, but he did something with the lightsaber that I think wouldn't be possible if you weren't a Force user, you know?
Right, exactly.
Then you have Rey, who they're tracking along as the Force user. I just think it'd be far more interesting if you had these 3 characters. You have the movie is called The Force Awakens.
Right.
just put the idea in our head that the Force awakens.
And they're waking in these people, and these different people.
Yeah, like,
you know, and the fact that
Force awakens, like it's awakening all over the galaxy.
right, it's always bringing up these new Force users. I mean,
yeah, like you draw us all back into, like, okay, so you expand the story until it's wide open world, but then in the next movie you gather it all back and say, no, it's just Rey.
Yeah,
that's quite.
Maybe Broom Boy.
And Boy, a couple other people that just, it didn't seem like that Broom Boy was like going to be placed in for a position in episode 9, though. That seemed to be a placeholder for another movie series.
Right.
You know, that seemed like that wasn't for this series. That was just setting something else up. So,
well, here's the thing that really pissed me off the most about the new trilogies is the fact that we should have gotten our reunion. And what I'm talking about is Luke, Leia, Han, maybe Chewie and Lando. Before, everything, went down. Before Han died, before everything else. And now the problem, that we face, besides not having that reunion, the passing of Carrie Fisher, which really sucks because we'll never have that. The fact that, Luke and Han never had the reunion, which they should have had, I believe, at least at the end of Force Awakens.
It was like what Mark Hamill called it, missed opportunities.
Right. But the fact that would have brought a lot of things home, I mean, as far as, bringing things full circle, bringing the nostalgia, bringing back the sentimentality, but not only that, but bringing closure we haven't seen these characters for, 40 some years all together. And the fact that they were trying to, kind of pass this torch to these new characters, I really think they missed the ball on bringing the original characters back together, and being able to show, like, this was the reunion that should have happened. And that really, I think, was one of the few things that really, I think they really dropped the ball on.
That was the biggest thing they missed out on. And, it's like, I said it in a couple other videos. I really feel like at first it was going to be all about making money for Disney, but they've made so many decisions that shows that they didn't want the money.
Right.
I feel like killing Han is one thing. Harrison Ford wanted to die in one of these movies since the second or third movie. But killing Luke was, like, in my opinion, I could be wrong. If I was wrong about this, I would say I'm underestimating that it cost Disney $2.5 billion between episode 8 and episode 9 to have Luke dead for these movies. They could have perpetuated Luke just a little longer. They would have had some toys. They would have some maybe cool new outfits. Remember, like, one kind of thing that was the one little thing that I liked about Luke in The Last Jedi was he had kind of a cool, like, leather outfit that kind of looked pretty sweet. It was like a dark brown leather outfit. We have a Drunk 3PO in the chat. What's going on, Drunk 3PO? And Ryan Cannell at RK Outpost. Ryan, I really love your channel. I've been a fan for a little while now. I've been watching a lot of your videos. Really, really good stuff. And anybody wants to join in, I just put the link in the chat for anybody that wants to come and talk to Harris, Gabe, Bill, and I about either the Mandalorian, anything Star Wars, anything lightsaber related is the type of stuff that we're into. So I really hope that there's something that we could be into in episode 9 rather than just, like you said, Bill, I don't want it to be a bad movie. It's just the direction that we're headed. It's like you made a wrong turn 150 miles ago.
Right.
And you're still going in that direction,
Well, I really think bring it back to J.J. Abrams, and I really think about bringing in Lucas, and I think about the way that they're doing a lot of this reshoot and editing. It's got to be, the problem is that they're going to try to please everybody. and they're not. And the thing is, if they can at least wrap it up to a point of answering some of the, I guess, just the important questions, and really, I guess fulfilling what we as Star Wars fans want, and that's closure. I mean, you really think about it. At the end of all of it, we just want three things. We want some kind of closure, we want some kind of satisfaction, and we want some kind of hope. I mean, and then that's the whole thing, and in I guess retrospect of everything else, the only thing they have left, if this doesn't happen, is going back to the EU or Legends and looking at the expanded universe, looking at the Old Republic. And I think that's the only salvation that this franchise is going to have, other than the Obi-Wan and maybe some of the other spinoffs.
I was thinking that too. It's like, unfortunately, we're probably going to have to leave this trilogy, lay it to rest at some point after Rise of Skywalker comes out, and like you said, get our gratification elsewhere in the Star Wars universe in time. We are going to have to, 3 or 4 years from now, in 2022, when the next movie's supposedly coming out, we will need to be somewhere else. It's like, stop playing around in this time frame. I am completely sick of knowing where we're going, knowing the ending. It's like, we did that in the prequels. We knew what the ending was. Anakin turns into Darth Vader. Him and Obi-Wan have a fight. Obi-Wan told us that 30 years before,
Right.
We knew it, but we rode it along. We're like, this is fantastic. We're having a good time with this. And any time that we kind of know the ending is just not as interesting as putting us someplace where it's wide open. We don't know where this could go, and put a bunch of cool characters in there that we're interested in learning about. I mean, my favorite feeling is that feeling of the 1980s that I feel we got in, Empire Strikes Back, was just the most 80s feeling that you could get while still being a timeless movie. That's the one thing that's missing when you're talking about that they're implying some agendas into these sequel trilogy movies, that what we really had before with the not only the prequels but with the original trilogy was just a timeless movie.
Yeah,
I think bringing up what I'm about to bring up might be a discussion for another time. But the one thing that I'm afraid of is what they're going to do with these. Basically, all the movies are files now, right?
Right.
They are digital files. People are having less and less. Imagine the landscape in 20 years, right? There's going to be basically 90% of people are not going to be watching Blu-rays, DVDs, hard media.
Right.
They're mostly going to be watching, Netflix, Disney Plus, streaming services like DC, any of these streaming services, right? The problem is they could take stuff away. Do you remember back in the 1980s when Disney would put out a commercial that say, you better buy a Dumbo movie because it's going into the vault for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right.
You better buy the videotapes. Everyone went out and got that special videotape. And then they would say, listen, Bambi is coming out of the vault. It's been in the vault for 30 years. It's coming out of the vault now
For a limited time. Yeah.
That's one thing.
Yeah, right.
But to put something away and then to bring it back, that could happen, right? So when in 20, 30 years, when they have full control over all the medium that they own, and they're owning more and more, as you said, they own Fox plus this, plus that, plus Marvel, plus this, plus that. God knows what other monopolistic things that could come their way later, right, in the next 20 years' time. So what they've already started doing, which is like one of George Lucas's changes, right, was the Han shot first thing, right? So, Bill, when me and you were kids, and when Harris was a little kid, we saw this movie, and we saw that Greedo got killed by Han because he was threatening Han, right? Isn't that good enough reason to shoot somebody? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
It seemed legit to me, right? But
I just can't stand the fact that
now they change it even further on Disney Plus, and what they could do is keep doing this to where when your kids watch these movies, you're going to be an old fucker sitting in a chair, you're going to be rocking back and forth, and you're going to say, watch Star Wars, it's incredible, and you have an idea what Star Wars was, this clear memory because you've seen it 100 times. When they go watch the movie, it's not going to be the movie you saw.
No.
That's the problem.
It's already happened, though.
I hope it doesn't happen. I mean, it's
They're going to change it that
I
way.
mean,
well, just even little changes, right? Because changing the fact of Han shooting first, now they change it even further to have this like little scream that Greedo does. He says a word before getting shot. And if you go into Disney Plus, there's some more modifications. I think I caught another modification that nobody's talking about between the Darth Vader and old Obi-Wan fight in episode 4. They did something to it. This is a plus though. Like, it looks cooler. It looks like they're moving faster. Now it's nothing like that fan film, which is the little snippet of
that was awesome.
of that fight scene redone, which they should include, right? They should include.
That was brilliant.
That's the type of thing that they should insert.
Right.
That type of thing doesn't really alter the story, right? But the Han thing kind of does.
It does.
And it changes the way you think Han is. Just like if you watch Solo,
Right.
that changed the way you think Han is, because originally you might have thought, like, look at this guy, he's so cool, his name's Han Solo. Then if you go watch Solo and you see where he got his name from, kind of like if he was like, let's say on your cool meter, he was an 88, right?
Right.
If you watch Solo, you start deducting points. It's like, okay, his name just became less cool. Now he's an 86. This chick just threw him over her shoulder, 82.
Yeah, right.
He just got kicked to the mud and this and that. It's like, you keep deducting points. It's like, that's what they keep doing with these characters. Like, whenever they try to bring them back and we know the ending, like in Solo wasn't going to die in Solo, right? They didn't say, what if, ? Solo, a Star Wars what if story.
Now that would be
like, oh, whoa, could Solo die in this alternate dimension?
But here's the other problem.
Dimension. So Solo lives for sure.
Right.
Chewie lives for sure. Only the other characters do we have to worry about and care about, So you better make them freaking awesome, And a couple of things in Solo were kind of corny. It's like at one point, his mentor just hands him the gun, right?
Right.
Here's a blaster.
Here's the DL-44.
Like,
This is your signature blaster.
I mean, this is lazy crap.
I know. I mean, it's.
How about he takes out somebody strong, and he maybe, or maybe this guy is like using it the whole time, and when he finally kills this guy, he gets the blaster off him or something like that. Or maybe this guy is like his mentor, he betrays him. A couple twists happen. You find out that's
Or he wanted a game of sabacc or something.
Right, yeah. Something interesting happens as a turn of events that he gained the blaster if you're going to show it in the movie. But it just seemed like they were ticking a lot of boxes. It's like, it's like, okay, he's got to do the Kessel Run. He's got to get his blaster. He's got to get the name Solo. Come on, what are you doing? Like all.
I don't think that movie needed to be told. And here's the other thing that I'm afraid Disney might do, and then they've already done in Rebels, is they're dealing with interdimensional time travel, parallel universes, and messing with the whole. I don't know how much of the Clone Wars you guys watch, the Rebels.
Through the Force, though, right? It's not like a time machine. It's like they're going through the Force.
No, they're going through portals, which is. So if you guys know anything about the Wills were the original beings of the genesis of the Force. There was the Father, the Son, and the daughter, and the Son was the dark side, and the daughter was the light, and the Father was the balance. And there's an episode where Anakin shows up, and they said that he was going to be the chosen one to take the Father's place, to bring balance to the Force, because he was the only one strong enough to keep the yin yang separated, to keep the daughter and the son. But the son started to become too powerful, which is the dark side. And because of that, what seemed like only it seemed to them like weeks, it was only seconds that they were gone. So that's something they might bring up in episode 9, where they're even talking about Star Killer Base, generating the energy not from a sun, but from a dark matter, which is opening up portals, which might bring Han Solo back. This is one of those. This is one of those theories where they're saying that because of the interdimensional time travel that happened in Rebels, because they can walk through portals. Because honestly, Ahsoka shouldn't be alive. Ahsoka really, perished fighting Darth Vader as, they were leaving, the Sith Temple. But Ezra goes through this portal, was able to bring out Ahsoka, and was going to bring out, Kanan Jarrus, who's Caleb Doom, which is his real Jedi name, but didn't stop him, because if he didn't stop the fire from the explosion, all of them would have died. So he didn't stop that event, but he brought Ahsoka out from getting destroyed by Vader. And at the end of Rebels, you guys see the end of Rebels?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ahsoka, it looks like this white ghost with Sabine, and they're going to go and search for Ezra. I thought that was a really cool ending. I don't know how that's going to play out, because what that just did was change the whole space-time continuum of the universe, bringing Ahsoka out when she probably should have died, in that one episode. So if that's what they're going to do in episode 9, that's going to open up a can of worms. That's just going to be like, WTF.
All the stuff that I've been hearing about episode 9, like we've talked about, it's going to be a 9-hour movie if they include all this stuff. This is like, everyone's just hoping for the world here,
Right.
This whole thing's got to be sewn together like a quilt from outer space. Like it just seems like a mess already.
Are you already reserved that you're not going to like the movie?
Wait. But
let me ask you that.
Well, I think for me, when I watch movies, if I'm told that the movie's bad and I go see it, this has happened to me about 8 times this year. I'm told the movie's bad. I watch reviews, terrible movie. I go see it with these low expectations and end up being like wowed because I had low expectations. I go watch the movie and it's a decent movie, and then I'm very happy, right? But now, actually, the funny thing that in to answer what you said, I don't know if you guys watched the latest Doomcock video where he describes like some of the latest spoiler stuff about episode 9. It's it kind of goes into more detail about what the latest cut was shown, right?
Right.
And apparently people walked out at the exact same time. They did not change one thing that happens where a bunch of characters die all at once, and people started to actually exit the theater again. And people were that kind of know about this are actually wondering, like, why did they not change that part when that's when people walked out last time?
Wait, is that the guy that wears the mask?
Right. I sent you guys a link a couple of times on a previous video, but not this latest video. But actually,
apparently there was 4 hours of footage they have.
Right.
So, in all honesty, there could be 2 movies that they could split it if they wanted to.
That would be odd. That would be strange.
Like they did with Harry Potter, like they did with the Hunger Games. Like
this would be an odd late stage to announce a second part, but it would be a crazy surprise. I don't know how that would go over.
I think you know what, if they do it well,
to be continued.
If they do it well,
with Marvel, with the last one, how they made it a second 2-part.
Yeah. You knew that was going to happen with Avengers.
I did not know that actually.
You mean the movie ended and you were like,
I did not know that.
Well, that was their other thing they're saying.
What I was going to say was when I heard these latest spoilers from this latest cut, I was actually very happy up until about 3/4 through when it started. Like it was actually, he was 3/4 through. Doomcock was about 3/4 through his description of what this movie was going to be like. Right. And I was kind of into it. I was like, you know what? If I just stop for a second, I could start buying into this. But then he started saying some Palpatine stuff that was just, I was like, okay, it's lost. This is not, no. This
all right, well, here's what I'm going to do, all right?
It's stupid,
I am going to go in with a blank slate because at the end of the day, I will say this: I'm a Star Wars fan. I love the original trilogy. I love the prequels. I love everything Star Wars. The good, the bad, the ugly, and I'm going to go in with an open mind, and then just have no expectations other than the fact that I just want to watch it objectively and see what happens. I did that with The Last Jedi. I had to watch it a couple times and then realized I hated it. But that's just my opinion. But I want to go in this really with an open mind. I want to go in with it with no expectations other than, I just want a good ending. I just want, if they're going to end the Skywalker saga.
Right. Well, Bill, me and you talked at the Saber Legion meetup in Edison, New Jersey, when we first met. And we both had the same idea about The Last Jedi. We both have the same exact opinion. And I really think, you're like a kindred spirit with me. We have the same feeling. Everything you say, I agree with when it comes to The Last Jedi, It's just where they were taking us with that movie was too real. Now let me tell you what I mean. And I think you agree with me because of what we talked about that day. We don't want to see, we want to be, like you just said, we want to go to this movie, whether it be episode 7, 8, or 9, or any Star Wars movie, or any movie for that matter. We want to be taken to another place and forget our real life for 2 hours, right? No matter if the movie is a comedy, a sci-fi movie, a space opera like Star Wars is supposed to be, or any type of movie or a drama. We want to be transported somewhere. We want to forget our real life and pretend like we are somebody else, or pretend like we're voyeuring in on some other situation. We're seeing something maybe that scares us normally. We're seeing something that maybe horrifies us normally, but we're safe in the theater. We're transported to this place, and then we get to go home again. With The Last Jedi, it's a little too real. We're like, we're talking about meeting a dude who is depressed, who is, living alone as a hobo, who is humiliating himself, who doesn't want to help the next generation, who tells people that come to visit him to go away, his old friends and stuff like that. Isn't it just a little too close to how your real life is? Like, when you have a sick relative, you're like, oh, and then you got someone else you talk to who's depressed. And then, you go visit someone else who wants to kill themselves or something like that. You got to try to help them. And you go see a movie, the same stuff is happening. Where like this guy, he's depressed, and this girl's trying to help him through it, but he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And then, he's saying how he almost killed his nephew. And this guy in our like in the historical memory that we have was the total opposite of all this stuff.
Right. I mean, you think about this.
So that's the problem that I think we ran into there, which is like we do want to be transported and have a good time. So don't show us depressing stuff.
Right.
We want to see cool stuff, like really cool stuff. Like in The Last Jedi, when the ships of the rebels were trying to escape and they kept constantly getting destroyed. And there was like a minute and 30 seconds in between each one getting destroyed. And Admiral Holdo's like looking out the window every time, like they shoot with a laser, and she's thinking, oh my God, what do I do? And then they switch scenes and then they come back. And another rebel ship with 20 rebels is getting destroyed. They said they only have 400 rebels. Every time a ship is destroyed, it's 30 more dead, 40 more dead. Because I think they tell us at one point, 40 people can fit on the ship.
Right, exactly.
Or whatever. We see him being destroyed. And she's thinking, and come on, the audience comes to the conclusion, like, a half hour before this chick comes to the conclusion. And it's just like, it's like you're being dragged through the mud with this very depressing stuff that like the rebels are dying, the rebels are dying, the rebels are dying. No one's doing anything about it. It's a volunteer army. They're stopping this guy from, he's like, I just want to get out of here. They're shocking him into staying. Isn't this a volunteer army?
It's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's what they said in books I read that were like, do you remember like it was like Lost Stars or something. It was like one of the newer books too, so it's like new canon. And they actually said like the rebels are volunteer, like you come and go.
Right.
You come and go, like just don't take the secrets with you and stuff like that. Don't go to the enemy, but other than that, you're free to go. I mean, this is the rebellion here, you know.
And Finn kept trying to leave. I mean, a lot of times.
And they're like, no, you can't leave. I mean, I don't know. If they can fly away,
right,
why can't everybody fly away safely? They're killing everyone, and at the end of the movie, no one's kind of sad about that.
Here's the other thing that I think a lot of us, we feel very disconnected from the characters.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I can't relate to any of these new characters really, you know, in a lot of ways, because they don't do enough character study, or at least they don't feel like they reveal enough of a personality of their character.
There's like a struggle, you know, there's like, if there was a struggle, then they make the person, like Finn had a little bit of a struggle, and then the episode 8 opens up with him like looking goofy.
Right.
And they kind of relegate him to just like the sideline, whereas he was actually going somewhere. So maybe they pick that back up again in kind of 9, you know.
I mean, like I felt like, you know, Last Jedi was 2.5 hours of just one ship following the other ship, and just, you know, that was like the whole movie. And then they had this little side adventure that made no sense, and it had nothing to do with the outcome of what happened. So it's kind of like, you know, there was so much that could have been explored. There was so much that could have been, you know, I guess revealed. You know, I mean, you know, I guess a lot of people, even though I don't mind cliche, I don't mind predictability, if you tell a good story, if it has good dialogue, if it has memorable lines. I don't remember any of the lines from these last 2 movies, honestly, other than Solo. You know, I mean, going, you know, to the mall. It's like, you know, the hooky religion stuff and the Jedis and all that. It was all real. Like, that's one of the only few memory, like the lines.
The only thing I remember from these movies is traitor.
Yeah, that too. But I'm just saying, other than like, you know, quotable lines, like that was like one of the only few things that really stuck with me, because like, other than what Daisy Ridley said, I could care less. I don't remember any memorable things really she said. I don't remember anything memorable, you know, that Finn really said, or even Poe. Like these characters, I just feel so disconnected with them, and I think that's the problem. It's like when you watch the original trilogy, you know, you see things unfold. It's like you're kind of almost seeing, you know, the story unfold through Luke's eyes,
right?
You know, and they try to recreate that with Rey, but you lose a lot of it because you don't feel that same connection with her, because of there's something just feeling so disjointed or impersonal, or just so disconnected, that it just leaves you feeling like you're almost like an outsider looking in, as opposed to being, you know, with that person as it's happening. And I think that was the magic that the original trilogy had, that really they missed the mark on this last trilogy, you know, and the fact that, you know, we knew the prequels what they were going to be. The prequels were pretty much the rise and fall of Anakin. I mean, it was pretty much the whole Skywalker series is basically about Anakin, you know, all 6 movies. And then you figure the last 3 movies, you know, what were they supposed to be about? Were they supposed to be passing the torch? Were they supposed to be, you know, even this last, you know, I guess, movie title, The Rise of Skywalker, it could be plural, it could be singular. And honestly, the only last Skywalker now is Ben Solo, even though it's technically his last name's not Skywalker, unless they change the Jedi name to become Skywalker.
I think that's one of the problems that you have, especially being someone who enjoys the EU like I did, was that and also just somebody who has watched the original trilogy. You don't have to be part of the EU to understand, when you watch episode 4, that Luke has the connection to the name Ben, because he's going to find Ben Kenobi. Leia describes him in the messages Obi-Wan Kenobi. Mm-hmm. But when Luke comes to the Death Star to rescue Leia, he says, "I'm here with Ben Kenobi." And Leia says, "Ben Kenobi, where is he?" Like, she knows his his secret name or his hidden name as
Right.
well, his real
Right.
name, as well as she knows his Jedi name of Obi-Wan Kenobi. But the real connection to the name Ben and the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi is between Luke and Ben Kenobi. That's why in the EU, Luke's son is named Ben.
Ben.
And Leia's son has a different name that she came up with Han. Han and Leia don't have the bond to Obi-Wan that Luke did. So just right there, right from the very get, we have something that's just a little bump in the road. It's kind of, to us, it's a huge bump in the road.
Right.
But to everybody else, I'm talking about subconsciously. If you have seen Episode 4 and you're a fan of Star Wars, maybe you're a casual fan, and then you go see Episode 7, that's why in your heart, it doesn't quite feel right.
Right.
Because right from the get, something's not quite right.
Exactly. And that's what I mean. That's what I feel like the soul of Star Wars is missing. And that's what The Mandalorian, I feel, has recaptured. I feel like the soul, you know, from the very beginning of the first episode of Mandalorian, you're brought back into this wonder and back into this galaxy far, far away, this dirty, this lived in, this, you know, wasteland, you know, and you're seeing, you know, what things are starting to transpire through this character's eyes and through his struggles as a person, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, you know, his strengths, his weaknesses, his humanity. And I think that's the other thing that these other movies have lost. And that's the humanity aspect of the characters. I mean,
that's why, you know, I love the struggle of the Mandalorian in every episode. Everything is hard for him. I mean, just like in my life, like, you know, it's like first world issues, but nothing's really easy. You know,
no, that's not.
Something like Harris and I will go to do something with the lightsaber. It's like, this will take 10 minutes. No, it doesn't. It doesn't take 10 minutes. Everything's a problem. It's like, how do we connect to this card? It's like, well, first we got to download the Rice program, right, Harris?
Yeah.
So he goes to download the Rice program. He says, this computer's not connected to the internet. Okay, so now we got to go in and connect it. You know, so everything's a problem.
Once I got the
Nothing
computer
takes 5
connected to
minutes.
the internet, it took 24 minutes to download the program.
Yeah, everything's a struggle for the Mandalorian. When he's off trying to do his mission, the like sort of rats of the world, I call them the
Nothing
rats,
easy
like
in
the
life,
Jawas, they strip his ship of everything. He's got to come back to find that he has to go through an entire episode trying to get his stuff back. I mean, everything is just a crazy struggle. I got Mundo Cabrera coming in.
Hey guys.
How are you?
How's it going?
It's good. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, man.
Oh, pretty good, man. Sorry I'm running a little late.
That's right. You just getting back from work?
No, actually, I had been working on some stuff in the house and just now relaxing when I caught the vid. So I'm like, hey, yeah, let me jump on in.
Nice to see you. I appreciate you coming in.
Oh, it's nice to be here, dude.
Did you have enough time to watch all 3 episodes of The Mandalorian?
Actually, I just got the app just a few minutes ago, so I'm gonna watch them tonight.
Oh, nice.
Okay, no spoilers then, right?
No, I hadn't even jumped in
Well, you know,
I hadn't even jumped in far enough to even get any spoilers.
Good.
I don't know if you're like me, if you like, I started to not care about spoilers when I realized, you know, that basically after I saw The Last Jedi and stuff like that, I'm like, you know, I was kind of open when I heard The Mandalorian was coming out. I listened to some review before I even watched it, just because I was a little bit like, you know, is this going to be good? Let me see what other people think. And I watched some reviews, and people that normally like will complain about the stuff that I didn't like, like The Last Jedi and stuff like that, they like The Mandalorian, they love The Mandalorian. So I went and watched The Mandalorian after I saw 2 episodes worth of spoilers, like on all these pods. So I knew everything was going to happen, but that was just another moment where, like, you know, I went in with lower expectations and was just like blown away because it was.
Well, absolutely. You know, if you go in with lower expectations than going in with higher ones, then you know your outcomes pretty much come in different ways, and it's either better or worse off for you. But when you go in with the lower expectations, then you can be kind of surprised at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I went in with no expectations, and you know, I really try to just immerse myself because I love my wife, but when I watch things with her, especially brand new things, it irks me because she has to talk and ask me questions about things that we're watching together. So we're watching it at the same time. We've never seen this show before, this movie, whatever, and she's already asked me questions or talking over it, or she starts.
That's my daughter. That's one of my daughters.
Right. So it's like I have to be alone. I have to be in a dark room. I have to be in front of the TV as loud as it can be, and with no distractions, nobody around to influence anything I'm doing. And I just gotta be like in that zone for however long it is, and just experience it. And I tell you, you know, the first time I saw The Mandalorian, like I said, I was brought back to episode 4, and it was just like I felt like there's this continuation of the beloved trilogy, and it was just like, you know, I want more. I want more. And that's how you know, even though the first episode was like 39 minutes or whatever. And I love how they're doing it like chapters, because it brings back to the old spaghetti westerns where it's not like this, you know, it's more of a comic book style. You want to know what's like, you know, what's going to happen next. And then you start speculating, and you're so anticipating like, oh, this could happen, that could happen, this could happen. And it's like they leave you on this like kind of like cliffhanger where it's like, okay, wow, you know, at the third episode, it's like, what's going to happen next? You know what I mean? And now, you know, instead of binge watching, which you can't do on this, you got to wait a whole week till next Friday to get the next chapter. So the anticipation that Star Wars once was, remember in the you know, when it only came out every 3 years, we had one movie, you know, and it was so much like anticipation for that feeling on Christmas. It's like you have 3 years to speculate, to theorize, to anticipate, to get that excitement of like, you know, feeling of like it's almost Christmas, you know. It's like, you know, that's the way The Mandalorian is for me right now, and that's what I feel like this franchise has been missing. And I hope they learn from this and go back to the roots of what made Star Wars great, and it was about storytelling, characterization, and the whole mythos of, you know, how expanded this universe is, because, you know, there's so much that they haven't even touched on, and the Mandalorians are one of them. It's so rich, it's so detailed. The fact that they're actually delving into this,
yeah,
this is phenomenal.
Pretty cool. We're going down this like weird side street in the Star Wars world. To go down Mandalorian Road is weird, but it's so cool. It's someplace I never thought we were going to get to. Hey, Mundo, do you have some audio on in the background?
Yeah, I need to turn it down. I'm sorry. We were all watching The Walking Dead a while ago.
People still watch that? No, I'm kidding.
I think there's still new episodes. I never got into that, but I know the comics are really awesome. I bought some of the comics, but I never got to the TV show.
Yeah, I used to be all into that, and then it started to get a little far-fetched for me, but I don't know. So I digress. So how about back to Star Wars? Now, what do you guys see for like lightsabers? Well, what do you want to see for lightsabers as far as, you know, the new movie, Mandalorian, and any of these new episodes?
Well, I think they should be bringing in some new kind of sabers, you know, and I don't know if you've seen, you know, you remember Space, the one that I had told you about. What was it, Hattori or Hoshino? Have you had a chance to watch that yet?
No, I want to see that.
Okay, if you see that and if you watch that, I believe that things would get 100 times better if we were able to see stuff like that on film. I mean, it's just phenomenal with the way they did that fan film.
I'll check it out. Say the name of it again for everybody.
Hoshino.
Okay.
Oh, it's Hoshino, Star Wars fan film.
Sweet.
I've heard it talked about other places too, so I think it's like blowing up or something, because I've heard of it before, and then you told me, so I was like, oh, I got to check this out. I think I would really like that.
Right, and then they also did one for Darth Maul.
That was awesome. The Apprentice.
Okay.
That was badass. That was probably one of the best fan films.
Oh yeah, I downloaded that right away because I mean I watch it religiously. I mean it's pretty good. It's just that good. You keep watching it over.
Good. I mean, it really reminds me of like what they could have done with Darth Maul too. I mean, and that's the other thing too. What do you guys think about? Is he going to be in this new movie or in Mando or any of these other? Because he, might have a crossover with the Ben Kenobi series because he crosses paths with him so many times.
Unfortunately, I don't have much faith in like their story group to be bringing stuff together. I don't think anyone's working together. I think these ideas are just thrown up like juggling.
Yeah, I believe that.
Unfortunately, that's where they've led me to believe they're at. They haven't shown me that they are like got all their ducks in order.
Well, you would think they would learn something from Marvel. I mean, just the fact of how successful their tie-ins were.
Well, yeah, they're bringing in like the Marvel guys, and that's why this Mandalorian show is what it is. It's because they got Jon Favreau, who, bless you, who started the Iron Man, basically kicked off the Marvel Universe, and they're getting him to revitalize what we think about Star Wars and introduce us to Star Wars live-action TV, which we've been teased and taunted and told it's been coming for like 10 years now. Something live action, we never knew if that was going to happen, Now we're in a world where we are looking left, looking right, and we're seeing things popping off all over the place. We have this Jedi Fallen Order game where it's talk about lightsabers. It's the perfect lightsaber game for anyone a fan of lightsabers. You get to build your own lightsaber. You get to make it a double-bladed lightsaber.
Yeah.
You can change the emitter, change the bottom.
Change everything, the pommel.
Change
everything. I've seen, ones that look like Prodigal Son or V2s, Exalteds. I mean, I've seen a lot of different variations from people's screenshots. So, I mean,
I would love to see like a GTA, a Grand Theft Auto style Star Wars game, open world. People can be Jedi, people can be bounty hunters, people can be whatever they want to be, almost like a mixture of Galaxies and GTA as a video game. As far as in movies, I'd love to see the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic. I would love to see them bring Darth Bane as a sort of a Joker-esque trilogy series about a bad guy. Incredible Sith Lord Darth Bane, bring him in as a trilogy, make Path of Destruction, Rule of Two, and whatever the third book is called, make them into movies, make Knights of the Old Republic, have the Revan story maybe open up in movies, but follow the books. Don't go off on your own in some silly direction that you think is so clever, but you have a third-grade education. Like, we need to follow the books. And that's why I thought those Game of Thrones people were going to come in and do something where they followed along with the books, because they had proven that they could follow along with stories from the book and actually come out with a great show. But it all unraveled in the end, and we found out that those guys were it was a sham. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, they're done. But supposedly Ryan Johnson's still getting his trilogy, as far as I know, and I don't know what he's going to do with that, because the whole thing is. They're not going to go probably to the EU because they don't want to pay the royalties.
No, that dude ain't going to do it. I think that dude, Kathleen Kennedy, is going to be gone. He is going to be gone with her. He is going to be forgotten, and hopefully he doesn't show his face in this galaxy. There isn't enough in this galaxy for his head. Like,
what I thought would have been awesome in The Last Jedi is that you remember when they were at Maz's place and she shouted out Han Solo. What would have made that scene really epic is that he had a big blaster, gunfight like the OK Corral right there.
Yeah.
Kicked everybody's ass. And then everybody's like, whoa, I didn't mean to mess with you. And then go about his business, after that.
You do not shout the name of someone like basically like I mean,
One of the most infamous.
one of the most infamous
Right.
people in the galaxy, you know, who has enemies everywhere. And
Right.
a 1,000-year-old being who's supposed to be wiser, who potentially could be wiser than Yoda. 1,000 years old, and you're that stupid.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous.
Yes.
What
Then
a
her-
bad situation.
Then her follow up is like, "Where's my boyfriend?"
Yeah, right.
Unbelievable.
Who
the other thing is-
cares? Who
Well,
cares?
it's like the other thing is,
Over to her
where did she get the lightsaber?
And she's wondering, oh, why are the bad guys here? Why are they coming to my castle to destroy my castle? Well, because of your big mouth. You don't know how it is to own a bar. You own a bar and you don't know how to keep a secret. Keep your mouth shut. How many deals have you seen go down in this bar? Are you shouting the name of every criminal and every hero person that comes into the bar?
That's another thing. Her
Unbelievable.
bar is full of criminals and smugglers. Matter of fact, when Finn wanted to escape, she says, "Go to them two guys over there. They'll trade whatever."
Well, that's why I'm saying there should have been a huge epic battle,
It
gunfight.
should have been. Yeah, but
I mean,
then
that-
if you notice too, at the end,
Realistic,
they did have one of the spies rat him out anyway, because that woman spy, she was like, "Yeah, they're here."
Yeah.
And it's like, hello, you know, it's like, you know, we got Han Solo right over here, and you know, come
Yeah,
down.
but how can you have no action as soon as she shouted his name out? I mean,
Well,
it's like when you
Yeah,
shout his
sure.
name out, it's just like calling the dinner bell for all those guys.
Well, you
Okay,
gave
I'm gonna
her-
get some money out of this.
both the bad guys and the good guys reported it, so there was an action, and the action was the bombers came in and just leveled the place.
Right, right.
Her
The first order just came in,
like a
just like
self-destructive.
started cleaning the house. I don't know.
None of it really made sense.
Well, how about this, guys? Since this is Saber Talk, what are some new Sabers that you guys are working on right now, Anthony and Harris? And I don't know if are you a Sabersmith, Mondo, or are you just?
I'm working on a special one for a friend of mine that passed away from brain cancer. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
it's taken me a little while to work on it because I want to get it right. But I gotta thank Space for helping me and Harris. I mean, you know, I email him all the time, and I can't say, you know, thankful enough because, you know, it means so much. But, you know, every little question I have, he's answered, and, you know, it's coming along, and thanks to him, it is coming along, you know, and it's taken me a while just to get the body the way I want it, just right. And I know that when it comes out, you know, the family's gonna love it because it's named after him, and the Saber's named Roy Boy.
Nice. So what are the internals right now? What are you working on?
Well, right now, I mean, I've got a 26650 battery. Let's see here if I can pull the. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but
Like a Neopixel?
here's the. This is the crystal chamber here, and
Nice.
I'm not sure if I can get it in that camera there.
Here, let me
We see it.
bigger.
It's nice. Very nice.
So I'm trying to see if I can get that fit in there, and working on you know, just getting things wired up. But slowly but surely, I'm gonna get there. And as
What kind
I
of board
said,
are
I
you
want to
using?
do it right. I'm waiting on. I'm gonna end up getting the FX-10,
Okay.
and let's see. Okay, hold on here.
Are you doing Plector Pixel or are you doing InHill?
Yes, Plector
That's
Pixel.
real nice. That's real nice, Mundo. Wow.
That is sweet. Yeah, it's real sweet.
That's gonna be.
So is that a real quartz crystal?
Yes, it's a real quartz crystal.
Nice.
Very
Very
cool.
nice.
So let me see if I don't know if I can actually.
Are you using MHS parts or are you doing your own thing?
Yes, MHMS parts. Let's see here.
Is that V1?
Let's see.
That's
And
what-
I've actually made
Okay.
my own little board here,
Nice.
clamp card.
that
That's
looks
sweet.
sweet. I remember when you were practicing the soldering for that. That looks nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm actually doing a little bit better on the soldering. So that's I'm really getting much better on the soldering and stuff like
Look
that.
good on the- yeah,
Very
the
cool.
pictures you sent me.
And maybe one day I'll get into that. I realize there's 4 people in the Saber community. There's the Smiths, like these guys over here. There are the collectors. There are the users, and then there are the abusers. And I think I fall into the abuser line because I'm part of TSL, which is the Saber Legion. And Harris told me something funny the other day. He says, you know what? I never get any of my Sabers back. And I've had your Saber back more than anybody I've ever built. So I don't know if that's a compliment or if that is a ball buster.
Well,
I'm falling into the abuser category because I don't know if you know much about Saber Legion, but you know, we go full force with, you know, Sabers, you know, and you know, we're wearing full combat gear and fencing masks, and you know, a lot of these things, you know, aren't meant, I don't think, to be used as riot gear. Like, I don't think I would use this GSC as Ascend in a meet because you know, it's too pretty, you know. So, you know, we're using stuff like TCSS. We built one together. I bought the parts, he put it together, and it's just a big beast that he's working on right now. And you know, so it's one of those things where, you know, it's just like, that's what the community is about. You know, the community about is we all love Star Wars and we all love Sabers in some capacity. You know, maybe one day I'll actually get to be able to solder. You know, I actually wrapped this hilt. So this is like the extent of my technology right now. So,
that looks good, Bill.
So I was like, you know, I gotta wrap it.
That looks good.
You know, and
That's a cool thing.
I wanted a kind of like an Old Republic look. You know,
What do you got there? Is that an MHS?
No, you know what? That's actually an Ultra Sabers.
That looks good.
But I put a different pommel on it, and it's got
Well,
a nice
very
leather wrap from DEFCON Bird, which is
that looks very nice.
so. But you know, I just I can't afford a lot of stuff right now, so I'm just kind of tinkering, you know, with what I have, and you know, I love these guys. These guys are my kindred brothers over here. I mean, you know, I met Harris through a Saber meetup in Philadelphia. We were just all getting together, and Dave Bowden and a couple other people, and we just that's sweet. Yeah.
So this is what the Saber's gonna look like, you know, when it's all.
What's the name? What are you calling it?
It's called Roy Boy.
Roy Boy, sweet.
And like I said, it's after my friend's name, Roy.
Yeah.
You know, and you know what's really cool is that I actually got it signed by Darth Maul, Ray Park.
Nice.
Yeah, I told him the story myself. I told him the story, and you know, we got a couple of pictures with the Saber and stuff, and
That's
so
awesome.
it's been a really cool journey, and I'm really, you know, excited about getting it finished up. And but you know, this, like I said, this would not be possible without space.
Wow, those
I mean,
guys
I
are
just,
awesome.
you know,
Yeah.
I just can't thank him enough.
Oh, thanks, SpaceWIndu. I really enjoyed talking to you through the email, and to meet you tonight is really cool. I'm really glad I could be of small help to that, but that's all you. That is a lot. You know, you did so much work to that, and you continue to work on that. It's going to come out incredible. You're using a great battery for that. The shroud looks awesome. The control box looks so sweet. I think that's going to come out really, really nice. I love the crystal chamber. Harris, actually, I want you to show everybody what you're working on, because Harris had a cool idea with well, you should show it.
You're closer to the camera.
He's got a setup here where here, I'll make the screen bigger here. This is what Harris is working on. It's a custom hilt that we showed in the last Jedi Forge show,
Nice.
Saber Talk show.
Oh, he's sweet. He got it. He got that part on there.
Yeah, he got the
Pack store.
Pack store hilt where he put a couple shrouds on it. He added the LEDs this week, so you see the 3 LEDs. One on the control box, one on the side of or 2 on the side of the control box. He did the hole for the 2.1 millimeter recharge port. he set up a component for the 7/8 inch blade, and
Nice.
Gabe is also going to show you. Harris installed something where you could store that little port at the bottom, so to hold it, while the saber is on. He doesn't have electronics in it right now, but let Gabe show you what the top part of the shroud can do. As you loosen the nut for the top shroud, it could actually slide up to become an elongated hilt, and also display the crystal chamber that Harris did just this week. Got some parts in for and actually made it a lot more detailed this week.
Wow.
Parts.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's freaking
It's hard,
sweet.
it's hard to see it because of the lighting, but yeah, it has the crystal in there and the crystal chamber.
And you'll be able
And-
to actually use it both ways with the top up or down.
Yeah,
Nice.
because all you got to do is tighten the bolt here, and then you have
Okay.
an elongated hilt hander, or just shut it down, tighten it, and use it that way.
Yeah.
So that was the basis of a $10 Kyojin, right? The tiny.
Isn't that amazing?
$10
Right.
it cost me.
That is. I mean, that is so cool.
I bought it from Aaron Lynn at Philly Comic Con. $10 with a broken board.
You can't
Hey,
beat it.
those
Well,
are the best. Sometimes those are the best sabers.
well, Anthony's got one of mine that eventually I would love to see, his take on.
A shroud on that, and then we're going to do something. It's actually similar to Harris's hilt. It's like a very slender design. So I think it's going to handle really nicely.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. I would love to see some brass on that. That'd be cool too.
Yeah, actually Harris is talking about some brass accents on his, and we're talking about doing something on the front end of it, like a hood ornament type of thing, or
Oh, that's
or
sweet. Dude, I can't wait.
type of thing like
Like a
that.
cross between a bunny ears and a hood ornament on a Rolls Royce.
Yeah,
well,
you're saying
I just can't wait. We'll put it this way. You know what?
sights.
And gun sights, like
Like
imagine
gun
on a gun.
Yeah.
When it's in its elongated mode, it almost looks like a pistol top,
Yeah.
a blaster.
Well, I thought
You
about
know-
converting it if it didn't work out as a saber because it just seemed like it was too shallow for the blade socket. But if you guys, I know you can work your magic, and this will make up for if the last Star Wars movie isn't any good. I'm looking forward to the saber, so it's like that's going to be like my Christmas. I can't wait.
Well, yeah,
I'll
I use the thought of coming sabers to get through hard situations. I'll be in the dentist chair with Novocaine getting drilled, and I got my eyes closed, and I'm thinking to myself about a saber that I'm building or something. It's I got to get through this, get back home so I can build the lightsaber. That's how I kind of get through. And what I say to myself when I'm getting drilled at the dentist is, Anakin says, I'm a Jedi. I know I'm better than this.
And
That's the thing I repeat to myself.
don't work on any of my sabers when you come back to the dentist, because I can see you working on them and you're so intent that you don't see the Novocaine and the drools coming out.
No, but that'll lubricate my drilling and all that. When I'm using it.
So
I'd like to see a crystal. Somebody do a crystal chamber with a sliding door on it.
I've
Yeah.
seen some of them. Those are cool.
I think I've seen something like that before, but I can't place where.
Well, I know the Gull Wing has sort of the L6 Gull Wing has that door.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the doors that open like this, but it would be so much cooler if you had just a sliding door, just kind of.
Okay.
I've
I've also seen the
something
extension
that-
ones where they extend out. You open up the one of the thumb screws and
Right.
it slides out and it can
Mhm.
expose. I've seen those kind, and I've seen ones where some people have made these incredible chassis. And let me ask you this. All right, here's something that is Gary Morris a unicorn because is he a real person? Because I've heard so many and seen so many of this guy's lightsabers, and they're incredible. I mean, and I know he's supposedly retired, but I just want to know if this is a real person and this kid, if he was like a prodigy young kid or something, because
I don't know how old he is or anything. I think he's about my age, but I think it's kind of a gift. He's on FX-Sabers. At least he was a couple years back. I would see a lot of his builds show up on FX-Sabers. Then I believe he's part of some Facebook groups. His work always seems to include like crystal chambers in the work. It's very detailed. He's got like piping. He's got exposed stuff. And he usually has those reveal cores where like the core can come out. I think, if I'm remembering
right,
properly.
yeah.
But I really like his design. His name is Gary Morris. Have you seen some of his designs?
Is that that Goodman? Is it? I'm thinking of Goodman.
They're different people. Yeah.
Different guy. Okay.
Yeah. But anybody want to check out some really cool lightsabers with some different moving parts and some different cool interiors? Check out Harp. I think it's Harp Lightsabers on Instagram. I know you follow him because he has some really good reveal stuff.
Nice.
Also, is it RO?
RO Lightsaber.
Really
He's from Hungary. Have you seen that guy?
Say again?
He used to be. It's Ro Lightsabers.
Yeah, he's also on FX-Sabers. You guys.
Okay. But I've seen some of his work, and that is phenomenal. He used to be he used to be an actual like high-end cover girl photographer. He used to do like stuff for like Glamour and all these crazy photo shoots, and then he ended up, I think, retiring, and then bought a lathe and started doing a lot of installs. But his work goes anywhere between a couple grand to like, I've seen some of his stuff go for almost 10 grand, like almost as much as Master Yoda's stuff. I mean, I think the most I've seen one of Master Yoda's Graflexes go for was like $25,000. It was like an ESB removable chassis. It had like some crazy, you know, like removing parts in it. Like the crystals actually spun, and it was like sick. I mean, it was just one of those things where, you got to pick your jaw off the floor, just to think how these people can make the stuff like out of brass and the different components.
So amazing.
And is that what sets prices so high on sabers?
Ken, I've seen some stuff. I've seen Yoda stuff, especially if it's a vintage Graflex with his, internals. I've seen it. I've seen one of his ESBs go up for almost 25 grand on eBay.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, but the amount of work that he puts into them, though. I mean, God, the hours.
I mean, Space knows him personally. I saw one of the interviews with him.
And look at that.
Is that one of his works?
This is one of Master Yoda's amazing crystal chambers inside.
See?
That's unbelievable.
Style Graflex that he made for me.
Is it a whole removable chamber?
Yeah.
As nice as you think it is, when you see it in person, it's even nicer.
Oh, of course. I mean, but I'm just saying, like, he was one of the grandfathers I know of sabersmiths. Between him and the old. Remember the old Parks EL sabers? They didn't have any sound, but they were all like the original Parks sabers.
Oh,
you guys remember them, right? They were on the forefathers, and in the late '80s, early '90s, before a lot of the force effects and the sound ones started coming out. Like
that was actually one of the places I ordered from back in like the late '90s, and and my friend got one. It's actually have it here in a drawer disassembled, because I'm actually going to convert it to, it's a Graflex. I'm going to convert it for him into a Neopixel when I get some time. But those were some of the first light up lightsabers that I was aware of.
Well, they ran on a 9-volt, and a lot of them were just light, as far as they were called the EL sabers. And I remember looking at them and
Harris, like the one that I have from my friend it must have been like a later Parks. What they did was they started making them with 2 9-volt batteries.
Right.
The one that he had, which was almost like a double powered. It was double the power that I had. I had EL blades as well. I had purple, blue, and green. And they were dim, blades, but it was fun to have something that lit up, because before that I was just dealing with broomsticks and
that was the beginning.
Painted green and stuff like that. So
that was the beginning.
Yeah.
Up until 2 years ago, I mean, I'm still a total noob, man. I mean, no holds barred, total noob. But I didn't even know that, these custom-made sabers were even around, up until I started talking to Space and doing this for my friend. It was like, wow, where do I go? Where do I do? How do I acquire one? Let alone just try to save money for even a piece of one.
Yeah, right.
I had no clue of what was entailed with these things. I mean, but the sheer art of even making them, and even the way they are produced, the way they look, there's so much pride that you take in doing these. It is unbelievable.
Well, I know for a fact that these two guys right here, Hesh and Space, are artists. I mean, that's all I can say.
Absolutely.
I mean,
there's no doubt.
I mean, it's art that they're making, and you really think about the time, the energy, the thought, the whole concept of everything. Even just doing the install itself, it's like you got to be an artist. You have to be a computer programmer, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer. You got to have all
I'm nowhere near that.
No, but I'm saying, but at the core, the essence of everything.
Yes.
They're artists, really. I mean, honestly, because there's nothing else that you can say. I know, Space is an artist by trade because he's a graphic designer, but just the fact to pour that much passion into something like this, is the passion of an artist, and that's what these guys are, and it shows. It shows in these guys' work. It shows in the people that really pour their blood, sweat, and tears into this hobby. And like I said, it's not even a hobby anymore. It's a lifestyle. It's a community. And that's what I love so much about, what Star Wars has done as a whole, no matter the good, the bad, the ugly, is the fact it brings people together.
It does.
It makes people friends, instant friends. I felt like I had such a connection with these two guys the minute I met them, and just not just because Star Wars brought us together, but just talking to them, you realize, we're brothers. You know what I mean? And it's not just a temporary thing. It's a lifelong thing. And even though I've only known them for a short time, I feel like I've known these guys all my life, just for the fact that, the passion that they have for Star Wars, the passion that they have for lightsabers, the passion they have for people. That's what really shows, and that's what always comes
to me now, Bill.
What's that?
You and I, how close are we? We're like family, right?
You're my brother. I'm telling you, you're my brother. You're my brother from another mother.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? You're a scruffy looking nerf herder. That's what you are.
I love the guy. We hang out a lot.
Yeah, and I'm bantha fodder, so I mean it's all good. I mean, but after you get through like the surface of it, you get to know people as humans, as people. We both found out our side both love music. We're both musicians. Space and I, we both are artists. I used to do graphic art and a lot of design work. I used to draw comic books and he'd be huge in the graphic novel. So I mean, it just takes a conversation to make a friendship. And Star Wars has brought so many people together, and so many.
It has. It's really brought a lot of people together.
And if more people looked at it as that positive, as opposed to, tearing people apart and saying, well, you suck because you only like the sequels, or you suck because you only like the original trilogy, or you suck because you don't like the EU. It's like, screw it. I am a Star Wars fan. I love it all. I love all you guys as my brothers. I respect your opinions. And you know what? I love lightsabers.
Yeah. Amen to that. Amen to that.
That's the thing. It's like whenever I see somebody, let's say in a video or even just in the comments of a video, and they're saying something that I don't agree with or that I don't like, as long as it's about Star Wars, if we're talking about Star Wars, they don't make me mad. They don't make me sad. It all makes me happy. Like if we're in disagreement about something, as long as it's Star Wars and we can have a discussion about it, that's all good, and no one cares if you like something and I don't, or I like it and you don't. That's all good. We can still talk about it. Hopefully nobody gets offended because of what's being talked about, but it's literally all in good fun. You know, it's like whether Bill and I met and there was amazing sequel trilogy movies out and we were amazed and we were both loving it, or we met and we both could laugh and make fun of them, which is what happened. Either way, we became friends, right? So I wish the movies blew us away so far, but there's a whole lifetime of stuff coming. They're never going to stop doing this, I don't think. So, you know,
they'll do it until they stop making money on it.
Right, we are going to
get
something that's right up our alley, and we already got The Mandalorian, which is way sooner than I expected to get something like excellent like that. So that's really incredible to have that come in as a bit. You know, I did not expect something to come in before Rise of Skywalker. That was very odd that they placed the show a month before Rise of Skywalker.
I don't think it was odd. You know what? I think it was perfect marketing, because this is what the Star Wars fans have been missing. This is what the Star Wars fans need right now. And, you know, this is like the Trump of Star Wars. This is making Star Wars great again. Baby Yoda right now is making Star Wars great again. The Mandalorian is making Star Wars great again. The hope of seeing the next season of Clone Wars and the Mandalorian War, this is going to give so much insight into the segue of the Mandalorian War, and hopefully pave ways to give us quality stuff that the fans were only making, like a Ben Kenobi series, a Darth Maul series, maybe even, you know, an Old Republic. You know, how cool would that be to be able to start looking, you know, to some of those other things? So,
that would be cool as a series.
Well, right now, I'll tell you one thing. The Mandalorian, what's done for me as a lifelong Star Wars lover, it's given me a new hope. So, no matter how bad, good, or different Episode 9 is, all I can say is I got the Mandalorian right now, and I'm happy. I got you guys. You're my brothers in Star Wars and in life, and I'm happy. And we got lightsabers.
That's a great place to end the show.
You know what?
This is the way. Savor the moment, everybody. Savor the moment. You never know when it's going to be your last. Exciting lightsaber things are happening. Exciting lightsaber things are going to keep happening. So stay tuned. Like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. Everybody that was in the chat, thanks for joining us. And Mundo and Bill, thanks for being a part of the show tonight.
Dude, I appreciate it.
It's great to be here.
Mundo, it was a pleasure, brother. I hope to see you
Pleasure.
soon. Guys,
Pleasure's all mine.
Guys, and you know what? May the Force be with you always.
May the Force be with you.
We'll talk next time.
May the Force be with you guys.
You got something to say, Harry?
No, we'll bring it up next time. I love you guys.
Love you guys.
All right.
Love you all too.
Always.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, everyone. Always. Always. Sabers up.
Thanks, guys.
I'll be there soon.